Divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451 Crisis, Weird. Back to the courtyard. Wei Hong directly activated the formation with all his strength. Now was not the time to be stingy with spirit stones. There was originally a water mist formation outside this independent courtyard, which was arranged by the market. But since Wei Hong learned a variety of first-level medium and low-grade formations, he arranged another defensive formation inside the courtyard where he lived. This formation is called the Four Symbols Formation, which is a first-level medium-grade formation with functions such as protection, enemy trapping and attack, and the effect is quite good. After activating the formation, Wei Hong returned to the bedroom. He sat cross-legged, then took out the talisman of the demon-slaying talisman and started to learn it directly. The first-level upper-grade talisman, the demon-slaying talisman, is included, and the current proficiency is entry-level, 1/100. After an instant stick of time, the system sent a prompt. Since it has been successfully included, Wei Hong smashed the vitality point on it without any regrets. Evil Killing Talisman Proficiency plus 100. Congratulations on your breakthrough to the Mastery Realm. The current proficiency is 1/300. Evil Killing Talisman Proficiency plus 300. Congratulations on your breakthrough to the Minor Success Realm. The current proficiency is 1/500. Evil Killing Talisman Proficiency plus 500. Congratulations on your breakthrough to the Great Success Realm. The current proficiency is 1/800. Now Wei Hong has a lot of vitality points in his hands, and he is very generous and directly maxes out the Evil Killing Talisman to the limit. At this moment, countless inheritances and experiences about the Evil Killing Talisman appeared in Wei Hong's mind. After absorbing it for half an instant stick of time, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. It is worthy of being a first-class upper-grade talisman. The complexity is indeed far superior to the first-class middle-grade talisman. After absorbing all the inheritance of the Evil Killing Talisman, Wei Hong sighed with regret. However, he did not waste time, but walked to the wooden table and prepared to start drawing talismans. Let's try first, and try to draw a talisman tonight. A firm thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind. Then he picked up the talisman pen, dipped it in the spiritual ink, and began to draw on the talisman skin. He was very decisive and did not hesitate at all. This was due to the various experiences he had just absorbed, which made him very familiar with the talisman method of the talisman. As the talisman pen moved, the spiritual power in Wei Hong's body began to slowly infuse and consume. However, after only 3 breaths, the talisman skin under Wei Hong's pen suddenly ignited without fire, and then quickly turned into ashes. Alice. Wei Hong shook his head and sighed. It's really not so easy to draw a first-level top-grade talisman. Although he had maxed out the talisman to the limit, he was limited by the 5th level of key training, which made him consume too much spiritual energy when drawing the talisman, and he failed without paying attention. You know, a first-class talisman requires at least the 6th level of key training, and it is best to draw it after the 7th level of key training. To be honest, it is a bit difficult to draw the Evil Killing Talisman at the 5th level of key training. This has nothing to do with experience, it is purely a matter of cultivation. Wei Hong thought about it and prepared to continue trying. But at this time, a shrill scream suddenly came from outside the courtyard. Something happened. Wei Hong's face changed drastically, and the alarm bells in his heart rang. His first reaction was that something happened, and it was definitely not a trivial matter. Listening to the shrill scream, it is very likely that the weirdness is at work. It can't be such a coincidence. Wei Hong walked out of the bedroom with a serious face, and immediately strengthened the operation of the formation after entering the inner courtyard. At the same time, he also took out more than 10 evil repelling talismans, and kept sticking all these talismans on the courtyard wall. After doing this, he breathed a sigh of relief. With the protection of the double formation and more than 10 evil repelling talismans, he finally felt a lot more at ease. Compared with other cultivators, he would be much safer here. At this time, several extremely shrill wails came from outside the courtyard, and they came from multiple directions at the same time. The sound was so miserable that it really made people change color. Wei Hong looked outside with a serious face and said to himself, So many people are encountering strange things at the same time. Is it true that a strange disaster will break out tonight? He didn't expect that the strange things would take action tonight. Originally, he was thinking about trying to draw the evil killing talisman, but now it seems unlikely. However, Wei Hong was not too panicked. He believed that as long as he didn't leave the courtyard, he would not encounter any danger. This thought flashed through his mind, but the next moment his face changed drastically. Because Wei Hong could clearly sense that a strong sense of crisis was coming towards him, as if some unknown existence was approaching. Damn it, I'm not really being targeted, am I? Wei Hong cursed inwardly, and then his eyes immediately stared at the outside. The sense of crisis in his heart became stronger and stronger, and an invisible sense of oppression was approaching rapidly. Puff! A piece of evil repelling talisman posted on the courtyard wall suddenly ignited without fire. Puff puff puff. Then several more exorcism talismans also began to burn, emitting pure yang auras. Wei Hong's face became extremely solemn. How could he not know at this time that there was clearly something strange outside the courtyard, trying to break through the defenses and come in? The spontaneous combustion of those exorcism talismans without fire was proof of this. He also clearly sensed that although those exorcism talismans released all their power while burning, the invisible existence outside was still slowly approaching. There was no sound, and no entity appeared. There was only an invisible evil aura, and this evil aura was becoming more and more vigorous, as if an invisible existence was slowly approaching Wei Hong. Wei Hong took a breath of cold air, and his whole body slowly fell into ice cold because of the approach of the invisible existence. Obviously, the dozen or so exorcism talismans could not stop the approach of the weirdness. Even the outside of the courtyard wall was plunged into endless darkness. Looking out, one could only see a darkness that seemed to swallow everything, but could no longer see the scene of the market. It seemed that a great terror was surrounding the entire courtyard and constantly approaching. Even though the four symbols formation was in full operation, Wei Hong still felt like he was falling into an ice cave. Wei Hong knew that if he didn't do something, he might really be killed by the weirdness. Swish! In a hurry, he didn't have the mind to think about it at all. He immediately took out a thick stack of talismans and posted them all on the courtyard wall. This time, there were not only exorcism talismans, but also dozens of scorching sun talismans. This was all Wei Hong's inventory. If he didn't feel that it was unusually dangerous, he might not be willing to take out so many. Now he felt that it was not enough. At the same time, various talismans and flying swords were also held in his hands. Wei Hong was already fully armed and ready. Chapter 452, Jiang Bell, Forced to Retreat. Deathly silence. The invisible existence outside the courtyard wall was still silent, but it brought Wei Hong an increasingly terrifying sense of crisis. Inside the courtyard wall, Wei Hong was concentrating and not daring to make a sound. He was in a state of tense alert. The exorcism talismans and the scorching sun talismans burned one after another, not only emitting a pure yang breath, but also turning into a group of extremely hot flames after burning, like a small sun, dispelling some of the darkness outside the courtyard wall that seemed to devour the entire courtyard. At the same time, the water mist array and the 4-image array were fully operational, forming 2 layers of shields of different colors, which firmly protected the courtyard. However, when the exorcism talismans and the scorching sun talismans burned one after another, the 2 layers of shields also began to ripple and sway slightly, as if they were about to break at any time. Fortunately, the water mist array and the 4-image array were fully operational, and the protective ability was still very strong. The thing that Wei Hong was most reluctant to see did not happen, but remained strong. The invisible existence outside the formation approached again and again, trying to break the shield with its invisible breath, but under the dual protection of the talisman and the shield, it could not succeed at all. And Wei Hong posted dozens of fiery sun talismans. The power of these fiery sun talismans was far greater than that of the exorcist talismans. The scorching flames emitted by them continued to dispel the invisible darkness outside, forcing the darkness back step by step. It works. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong was delighted. Then he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If so many exorcist talismans and fiery sun talismans couldn't force back the weirdness, he really had to be prepared to face the weirdness directly. This was also his worst plan. Fortunately, the situation did not go in the worst direction. At this time, all the exorcist talismans and fiery sun talismans burned together. Waves of pure yang breath that made evil spirits retreat filled the surroundings, and groups of flames that were as hot as little suns, enough to burn evil spirits into ashes, illuminated the entire courtyard, and continued to rise, spreading the flames out layer by layer. At the same time, the four symbols formation immediately changed under Wei Hong's control. The originally black shield turned into a fiery red color, and a layer of light red light flowed on the surface, like a phoenix standing in the dark night, emitting an unbearable hot breath. In this way, the invisible existence outside the courtyard wall seemed to have suffered great damage. Although no sound was made, Wei Hong could clearly sense an invisible wave flashing by. This wave was full of resentment, anger, pain and fear, and it was obviously hurt. Wei Hong also saw that the darkness that originally enveloped the courtyard wall and seemed to swallow up the entire courtyard was now melting layer by layer under the terrible power of the fiery sun talisman and the four symbols formation, gradually revealing the original scene of the market. Fortunately, I was prepared, otherwise I would have been in trouble tonight. Seeing the scene in the market reappear, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that the weirdness should have retreated. As expected, as the inky black darkness slowly melted away, the invisible strange breath and sense of crisis outside the courtyard wall were also slowly fading away until they completely disappeared. Obviously, the strange was finally forced back under the dual thread of the talisman and the formation. After feeling that the strange breath had completely disappeared, Wei Hong did not dare to neglect it, and was still on high alert, fearing that the strange would kill him back. However, this time he was a little too worried, and the injured strange did not appear outside the courtyard again. Wei Hong's expression was slightly relaxed, and he sighed with relief on his face. Fortunately, there are the four symbols formation and the fiery sun talisman, otherwise it would be hard to say tonight. I don't know if the little girl Meng Lan is okay. Originally, he had given Meng Lan several exorcism talismans and fiery sun talismans, but from what he encountered tonight, if Meng Lan unfortunately encountered the strange, those talismans might not last long, and Meng Lan might also be killed. But this is no longer something Wei Hong can take care of. It is good enough for him to protect himself now. Giving Meng Lan a few talismans is the greatest help he can do. For the rest, she can only pray for good luck. After confirming that the strangeness really retreated, Wei Hong still kept the water mist array and the 4-image array running. These two arrays are his most important protection and cannot be stopped in any case. No one knows whether there will be more strangeness in the second half of the night. Without the protection of these two arrays, he will not be able to practice at ease, let alone sleep. At this moment, although the strangeness outside the courtyard has retreated, there are still many places in the market where various wails and screams are heard from time to time, as if they are experiencing unspeakable horror. Wei Hong thought with a heavy face, even if there is no strange disaster tonight, there will be so much noise and many people will die. Is King Gaian sect still doing nothing and watching ordinary cultivators being killed by strangeness? If this is true, then King Gaian sect can't really be called a big sect. How can anyone be convinced by a sect that has no responsibility or means? This thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind, but the next moment something unexpected happened. Ling, ling, ling. 6 consecutive deafening bell sounds came from King Gaian sect and spread to the surroundings at an unimaginable speed. Huh? Wei Hong's body was shocked, and his eyes lit up immediately. King Gaian sect has taken action? That's right, if we don't take action, we will lose face. Feeling the terrifying power contained in the bell sound and the boundless yang energy, all Wei Hong's original worries completely dissipated, and the whole person relaxed. I have heard that King Gaian sect has a treasure, the Jiang Bell, so these bell sounds must come from the Jiang Bell, right? Although it seemed like a question, Wei Hong was very sure in his heart. Although he was ashamed to see it, he had long heard of the great name of the Purple Yang Bell, the treasure of the King Gaian sect. It is said that the Purple Yang Bell is a top treasure of the most yang and the most rigid. It is the most powerful to restrain all kinds of strange and evil things. It is extremely powerful and will not be used easily. Now it is naturally the most suitable weapon for this situation. The Purple Yang Bell rang, and the evil spirits within 10 miles retreated. As the sound of the bells containing the most yang and the most rigid energy continued to spread, a series of shrill and sharp screams immediately rang out in the market. Under the deterrence of the Purple Yang Bell, the weirdness in the market naturally had nowhere to hide, and was shattered by the sound of the bell, and could not escape at all. After feeling that the weird aura had all dissipated, many people were full of relief, and they were also grateful to the Kingayan sect. After a while, the originally noisy and chaotic market slowly returned to calm. Chapter 453, Rush Buying, Panic. The next day, after dawn, the market town, which had been quiet last night, became noisy again. Almost most people chose to leave their homes. They either went around to get information or gathered in groups of 3 or 2 to discuss what happened last night. For a while, the whole market town seemed to be shrouded in the sound of discussion. Wei Hong opened the formation and walked out of the courtyard, and heard all kinds of discussions. Too tragic, you didn't see it, the death was so miserable. Fortunately I was not targeted, this is too scary. That's right, fortunately Kingayan sect took action, Jiang Bell is worthy of being the treasure of the sect, all the weird and evil spirits dissipated. My next door neighbor Wang Daoyao was killed. If Kingayan sect hadn't taken action, I might be the next one. I'm glad. All kinds of comments filled the whole market town. Some people were uneasy, some were glad, and some were terrified. Obviously, the huge commotion that happened last night shocked the whole market town. Wei Hong's face was solemn. He stopped a middle-aged man and asked casually, Daoyao, do you know how many people died last night? Look. The middle-aged man pointed to the other side and said, they are all over there. The patrol team is searching with all their strength. As long as they have been killed by the strange and poisonous hands, they will be temporarily parked over there and prepared to be dealt with together. Thank you, Daoyao. Wei Hong clasped his fists and thanked him. Then he looked in the direction of the market and saw a large group of people gathered together. He walked over there and soon came to the outside of the crowd. At this time, these monks gathered together, just like ordinary people, pointing and talking in the middle of the encirclement. Wei Hong turned a deaf ear and squeezed in directly. After squeezing to the innermost part of the crowd, he saw rows of corpses placed side by side on the ground. There were quite a lot of corpses, as many as 40 or 50. Moreover, each corpse showed a very miserable death. Some had faces full of fear and eyes bulging, some were pale without any trace of blood, some were blue as ghosts, and some had dried flesh and blood, as if their spirit and energy had been sucked out. In short, all kinds of death were extremely miserable. Wei Hong's heart was pounding, and he was shocked for a while. He thought to himself with a heavy face, so many people died last night, and it seems that the bodies here are not all, no wonder everyone is panicking. Although 40 or 50 people may not seem like a lot, this is in the world of immortal cultivation, not in the mortal world. Those who died were all cultivators, and there were even masters in the late stage of key training. How could such a result not make people panic? Wei Hong was also quite fortunate in his heart. If he had not been well prepared last night, he might have become a miserable corpse placed here, and even if he didn't die, he would definitely be seriously injured. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, and then turned away without looking at it anymore, and left here and went directly to the Lingfu Pavilion. Even if the Kingayan sect took action, even if the Jiang Bell was enough to make the weirdness within 10 miles retreat, this atmosphere of everyone being in danger would definitely not dissipate so quickly. He was unwilling to discuss with others, but needed to make more preparations. After arriving at the Lingfu Pavilion and opening the door, the little girl Menglan followed with a look of panic and fear. Boss, you are finally here, I am glad you are okay. When she saw Wei Hong's figure, Menglan's face was full of surprise, and she seemed to have found a sense of security. Her eyes immediately lit up, and her nervous expression relaxed a lot. She trotted into the shop, and before Wei Hong could speak, she asked nervously, Boss, have you seen those corpses? It's terrible. Were they all killed by the weird? Is the talisman you gave me used to deal with the weird? Wei Hong looked at the panicked expression of the little girl, and immediately smiled and comforted her. What can happen to me? I hope you are okay. I was afraid that you would be targeted by the weird. Fortunately, you are lucky. Yes, those talismans can deal with the weird. You must keep them close to you. As for those corpses, you'd better not think too much, just pretend you didn't see them. Menglan nodded with gratitude, and then said with fear, Boss, those weird won't come again, right? After more than a year, Menglan's cultivation has broken through to the second level of key training. But with only the second level of key training, facing the weird is absolutely dead. Menglan naturally knows this, so even with the talisman to protect her, she is still very worried. Who knows? Wei Hong sighed, and then comforted him, but with the deterrence of the purple Yang Bell, it should not appear again in a short time, so you don't have to be too scared. Okay, open the door. I will try to draw more exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans today. After giving the order, Wei Hong walked directly into the lounge and began to draw talismans. He only planned to draw exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans today, and ignore all other talismans. Since these two talismans can effectively deal with weirdness, he naturally has to prepare more. After entering the lounge, Wei Hong began to draw talismans with great concentration. He didn't know that because of what happened last night, many cultivators wanted to prepare various means to deal with weirdness, such as talismans, magic tools, etc. So at this moment, the cultivators in the entire market began to rush to buy anxiously. Whether it was talismans or magic tools, or other things that could deal with weirdness, they were all snatched up by a large number of cultivators, and the price of exorcism talismans soared more than 10 times. Relatively speaking, the most popular ones were the ones that could exorcise evil spirits. Because there were too few magical instruments that could threaten the weird, and they were very expensive, which was not affordable for ordinary cultivators, so buying exorcism talismans was the best choice. As a result, all the exorcism talismans in the entire market were snatched away, and the shops selling talismans were constantly visited by a large number of cultivators, fearing that they would lose everything if they were a step slower. Wei Hong's spiritual talisman pavilion was naturally no exception, and even the door was almost trampled down. The little girl Menglan was frightened by such a terrible scene and didn't know what to do. You guys, what do you want to do? Do you have exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans? Give me 20. Little girl, do you have exorcism talismans? I want 10. Don't rush to grab them. I was here first. Little girl, bring me the exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans. I'll take as many as you can. The price is negotiable. Get out of here. Why are you rushing? I was here first. Bring me all the exorcism talismans. The group of monks who almost broke down the threshold of the Lingfu pavilion were like wolves and tigers. Facing the frightened little girl Menglan, they opened their mouths and wanted to buy all kinds of exorcism talismans. Chapter 454, Closed, Strange Fog. Shopkeeper, please get out, those people outside are going crazy. Menglan was so scared that she could only go to Wei Hong, and she almost cried. Wei Hong came out after hearing the news, and was also shocked by the crazy scene in the store. Seeing a large number of monks scrambling to buy exorcism talismans, he immediately stood up and called out loudly to stop them, saying, "Everyone, fellow Taoists, please calm down. All the exorcism talismans in our Lingfu pavilion are currently sold out. They were all sold out yesterday. Please don't continue to squeeze in. Please go to other stores to have a look." Faced with so many monks coming to the door at the same time, Wei Hong did not dare to be careless at all. However, he did not dare to offend anyone, so he could only say that all the exorcism talismans were sold out. In fact, except for the more than 10 he had just drawn, the rest of the exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans were indeed sold out. He did not lie about this, and Wei Hong did not want to cause more trouble because he could draw exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans. However, facing Wei Hong's persuasion, those monks who had gained nothing were unwilling to agree. "Fellow Taoist Lin, please sell me a few. I don't want the fiery sun talisman, I just want the exorcism talisman." "Shopkeeper, you can't drive customers away. You must have some exorcism talismans. Take them out quickly. I'll give you 10 spirit stones for each one. I'll give you 11 spirit stones for each one. Fellow Taoist Lin, please give me a few. Fellow Taoist Lin, don't listen to them. I'll give you 15 spirit stones for each one. Sell them to me. I want 10. For the sake of their own lives, even the monks who were short of money did not hesitate to offer a very high price just to grab a few exorcism talismans, just to prepare for any eventuality. Such crazy behavior made Wei Hong a little dumbfounded. He waved his hand and refused hurriedly, saying, "It's really all sold out. There's no more. Please go back, fellow Taoists. If you need other talismans, I still have quite a few." With Wei Hong's resolute refusal, the crowded monks were immediately disappointed, so they could only disperse in disappointment and prepare to try their luck elsewhere. After everyone had dispersed, Wei Hong decisively ordered, "Menglan, close the shop immediately and stop business for a few days. Whether others believe it or not, as long as there is a glimmer of hope, There will definitely be more people coming to the Lingfu Pavilion to buy exorcism talismans. In order to prevent this phenomenon from happening, Wei Hong had no choice but to close the shop. Okay, shopkeeper, I'll go right away. Meng Lan also understood the seriousness of the matter and took action immediately. After closing the door, Wei Hong told Meng Lan, "Be careful these days, try not to go out, and I will come to open the door after the incident has calmed down." "Okay, shopkeeper, I understand." Meng Lan nodded, bowed slightly to Wei Hong, and immediately turned and left. After closing the door of the shop, Wei Hong was not in a hurry to go back, but wandered along the streets of Fangxi. It was daytime now, and last night, the treasure of Qingyuan sect, Jiang Bell, had just cleared all the weirdness within a 10-mile range. I believe it is still very safe at this time, so Wei Hong is not too worried. The reason why he did not return to his residence immediately was actually to find out some news. Compared with other people, his source of information is much more closed, and the timeliness of obtaining information is slower than that of ordinary people. It is often a long time before he knows about some things, which makes Wei Hong feel very helpless and depressed. It happened that the store was closed today, so he could wander around. At this time, whether it was a restaurant or a market, there should be many people discussing what happened last night, so he planned to listen to the news of these discussions. Walking slowly along the streets of Fangxi, Wei Hong found that the atmosphere in Fangxi was much more tense than when the robbery cultivators were rampant before. The monks coming and going were all in a hurry, and this time most of them walked in groups of 3 or 2, and few people appeared alone. Obviously, the strange existence still frightened many monks. Even in the daytime, they dared not go out alone. Moreover, the faces of the monks who came and went were all uneasy or nervous, and even their bodies were tense. It seems that the strange incident that broke out last night has made the whole Fangxi fall into a state of fear and panic. Looking at the scene in Fangxi, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He raised his foot and walked towards the market, ready to go to the market to find out the news first. After arriving at the market, Wei Hong saw that there were fewer stalls, and there were no customers. The idle stall owners were also talking to each other. At this time, the two people who were talking not far in front of him immediately attracted his attention. To be precise, what attracted him was the content of the conversation between the two people. The old man selling pills whispered, "Fellow Taoist Joe, have you heard about it? It seems that a few days ago, a strange fog suddenly appeared in the mountains near Qingyuan sect, and the speed of the strange fog spread very quickly. It is said that many monsters were unable to escape and were directly swallowed up." The middle-aged stall owner selling materials next to him asked with a puzzled look on his face, "No, where did you hear it from, Senior He? Strange fog appeared in the mountains near Qingyuan sect. Doesn't Qingyuan sect have any reaction? Aren't they afraid that the strange fog will spread to their Qingyuan sect? Hey, everyone is talking about this now." The old stall owner slapped his thigh and said confidently, "I also heard about it from a fellow Taoist who came in from outside today. It is said to be true. As for Qingyuan sect, I'm afraid it should have reacted. They will definitely not ignore it." "Really? This is too unlucky, right? If the strange fog spreads over, if Qingyuan sect does not react at all, maybe the entire Qingyuan sect will be swallowed up directly, and we will definitely not be spared at the foot of Qingyuan mountain." The middle-aged stall owner was shocked and couldn't help but raise his voice several degrees. No one could remain indifferent to such a frightening news. Who would have thought that there was a strange riot in the market first, and then a strange fog appeared in the mountains near Qingyuan Gate? This sudden change was simply unacceptable. After hearing this conversation, Wei Hong was also shocked and angry. Strange fog? How could this happen? How could strange fog appear in the mountains near Qingyuan Gate? Is there really going to be a strange disaster? If this strange fog really spreads, won't the entire Qingyuan mountain be in trouble? What should I do then? At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Wei Hong's mind. But the news was too sudden, and it was unknown whether it was true or not, so Wei Hong couldn't think of any way to deal with it all of a sudden, and his mood also sank. Chapter 455. People are in panic. What is strange fog? The so-called strange fog is actually a natural disaster. It is impossible to find out where the strange fog comes from. People in the world of immortal cultivation only know that once the strange fog appears, it will bring endless casualties and harm to the surrounding areas. If you are not careful, even some small and medium-sized sects may be completely swallowed by the strange fog. because once the strange fog appears, it will be filled with a lot of weirdness. As the strange fog continues to spread, it will swallow the surrounding areas step by step. The scope of strange activities will expand together, and then it will pose a huge threat to the immortal cultivators and mortals in the area covered by the strange fog. Wei Hong once read a book of miscellaneous talks, which recorded some information about the strange fog. It is said that the source of the strange fog is unknown, and no one knows how it appeared. It is only known that the figure of strange fog has appeared in various parts of the world of immortal cultivation, and it is listed as one of the major natural disasters in the world of immortal cultivation. Every time it appears, it will bring a huge disaster. If the strange fog is not contained in the early stage of its appearance, the area covered by the strange fog may become wider and wider. At that time, it will be extremely difficult to eliminate the strange fog, and it may even cause a catastrophe for the entire immortal cultivator. Because for the cultivators in the key training realm, the invisible strangeness wandering in the strange fog is definitely a huge threat. Ordinary people can't deal with it at all. Just look at what happened last night to see it. So after hearing the news that the strange fog appeared in the mountains near Qinghai Mountain, Wei Hong's heart suddenly sank slightly. The sudden increase in the volume of the vendor selling materials also made their conversation heard by more people around. Strange fog? What strange fog? Taoist friends, what are you talking about? After hearing this, a middle-aged cultivator with a full beard next to him suddenly changed his face and asked hurriedly. And he looked unbelievable, as if he also knew something about the strange fog. Where does the strange fog come from? Fellow Taoist, are you kidding? What? The strange fog appeared? Where? Impossible. Fellow Taoist, are you talking nonsense? Where does the strange fog come from? Who brought the news? This is not something you can just say casually. Are you sure, fellow Taoist? The stall owners around were attracted by their conversation, and their faces changed immediately after hearing the word strange fog. Obviously, they were well aware of the name of the strange fog, a natural disaster in the world of immortal cultivation, and they all asked loudly in uneasiness. The vendor selling materials had never seen such a scene before. He hurriedly looked at the old vendor next to him and said, I don't know. Senior, he just told me this. Senior, can you tell us about it? The old vendor next to him saw that the news could no longer be covered up, so he sighed and said, Fellow Taoists, I actually heard it from a fellow Taoist who came in from outside. He said that a large area of strange fog had begun to appear in the mountains near Qinghai sect a few days ago, and the strange fog was still spreading. Many cultivators and monsters had been poisoned and died miserably. This should be true. Who would talk nonsense about such a big thing? As soon as these words came out, the people present suddenly changed color. Some were panicked and others were extremely nervous. Originally, they expected this to be a rumor, but now they believed it 70% to 80%. So, many people immediately packed up their stalls and left. The strange fog had appeared, so how could these people still have the heart to set up stalls? Under such circumstances, the news of the strange fog spread rapidly in the market like a hurricane. Wei Hong thought about it, and turned around and returned to his residence like everyone else. The news of the strange fog was too big, and he needed to digest it carefully. He also had to think about the way out. Of course, this was the worst plan. After returning to the courtyard, Wei Hong fell into deep thought. Strange fog? Could it be that the strange things that were causing chaos inside and outside the market came from the strange fog? The strange things are invisible and formless, but they are extremely terrifying. Ordinary people will die if they encounter them. Once the strange fog really spreads over, the entire Qinghai sect may suffer heavy casualties. From the strange horror, we can imagine how terrible the strange fog, which is called a natural disaster, is. It is possible that the strange fog appeared in the mountains near Qinghai sect this time, which would cause many casualties to Qinghai sect, but it is impossible for Wei Hong to believe that the strange fog could directly swallow up the huge Qinghai sect. After all, Qinghai sect is also a sect that has been passed down for a long time. There are countless trump cards passed down for thousands of years. It can be said that it has a deep foundation. It should not be difficult for Qinghai sect to eliminate a strange fog. Let's not talk about anything else, just say that the purple sun bell that showed its power last night left a deep impression on Wei Hong. In addition, there are 7 or 8 giant masters in Qinghai sect, and it is unknown whether there are any hidden ones. Therefore, Wei Hong has every reason to believe that these giant masters will never leave the strange fog alone. Therefore, Compared with the panic of others, Wei Hong is much more stable. It is still unnecessary to leave the Qingyuan mountain market for the time being. When the news of the strange fog spreads, Qingyuan sect will definitely take corresponding measures, but I don't know how they will do it. I can't panic now. The most important thing now is to make all kinds of preparations, especially the evil killing talisman needs to be drawn as soon as possible. This is a great way to deal with weirdness. As for the store, I will open it tomorrow. Now that the news of the strange fog has spread, I believe there will be many people rushing to buy talismans, even if there are no exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans. When all the inventory in the store is sold, it will at least be a large income. Wei Hong considered it very carefully, and also anticipated some situations after the news of the strange fog spread. After thinking about all these things, he began to draw talismans with all his strength. At present, he only had 3 talismans that could threaten the weirdness: the exorcism talisman, the blazing sun talisman, and the evil slaying talisman, so he had to draw as many talismans as possible to prepare for any eventuality. There are still not enough means to deal with various enemies. Now it seems that only talismans can work. It's really a kind of helplessness to be stretched to the limit. When Wei Hong thought that he only had talismans to threaten the weirdness, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. To be honest, he is only at the 5th level of key training now. It is good enough to be able to protect himself under the invasion of weirdness. As for other things, it is useless to think too much. Wei Hong also knew this. He thought with a firm look in his eyes, I still can't fall behind in cultivation. If I break through to the foundation building stage, it will be much easier to deal with those weirdness. Cultivation is the foundation of everything. Only after the cultivation is improved can you have more means to fight against the enemy. At this moment, Wei Hong's desire for foundation building can be said to have reached its peak. However, he would not aim too high, and the most important thing at the moment was to develop step by step. Suppressing all distracting thoughts, he began to draw the talisman wholeheartedly. Chapter 456, Hot, coming to the door. The next day Wei Hong thought about it and decided to open the Lingfu Pavilion. He did not inform Meng Lan, but took care of the shop himself. After opening the door, Wei Hong could feel that the atmosphere in the market had become worse. It should be said that since last night, since the news of the spread of the strange fog came out, the entire Qingyuan mountain market has become panic-stricken. This sudden change, the strange fog disaster that made people change color, naturally made the atmosphere in the market worse. Most people may have associated the appearance of the strange fog with the weirdness of the riot the night before. There is definitely a close connection between the two, and it is absolutely impossible for such a coincidence. In this way, everyone is naturally in danger, and many people are panic-stricken, but they are like headless flies and have no way out. A wave of panic and anxiety began to spread in the market, and some even said dangerous remarks that the market was about to be swallowed by the strange fog. Faced with such a situation, some monks with connections and ways naturally left the Qingyuan mountain market early. There are also some cultivators like Wei Hong who believe that Qingyuan sect will definitely take action, and they continue to live in the market. From today, Wei Hong saw that the market seemed to be a little quieter. But for those who choose to stay, they must make every possible preparation. The Lingfu Pavilion had just opened for less than an instant of time, and customers began to come in one after another. Friend Lin, you are finally open. Come on, give me 10 more exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans. What? All gone? Here. Then give me 10 fireball talismans and 10 golden sword talismans. Old customer Qizanayan came to the door early in the morning and shouted impatiently as soon as he entered the door. But when he heard Wei Hong say that the exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans were all sold out, his face became extremely stunned, and then he immediately changed his mind and bought other talismans, not daring to be picky at all. Because Qizanayan knew very well what the situation was in the market now, he was afraid that if he was a little slower, he would not even be able to buy the fireball talisman. Wei Hong looked at him helplessly and could only take out 10 fireball talismans and 10 golden sword talismans and hand them to him. Qizanayan took the talismans, handed dozens of spirit stones to Wei Hong, and then left in a hurry. Just as he left, a female cultivator came in. The female cultivator said to Wei Hong with a hint of urgency, "Friend Lin, what other talismans do you have here?" Obviously, the female cultivator knew that the talismans such as the exorcism talisman and the blazing sun talisman must have been sold out long ago, so she didn't even ask, but asked Wei Hong what talismans were left. Wei Hong indicated that the talismans were all on the shelf and asked the female cultivator to check them herself. But before the female cultivator walked to the front of the shelf, 3 more people walked in at the door of the store. After the 3 people greeted Wei Hong, they immediately began to pick talismans in a hurry. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong shook his head with a wry smile. Although he had expected this situation, he didn't expect those cultivators to be so crazy. The atmosphere in the market has become colder, but Wei Hong's business is surprisingly good. Many monks began to come to the door to grab all kinds of talismans. They were not afraid of talismans that were not exorcist. They grabbed whatever they could. Even if Wei Hong raised the price by 2 times, he still couldn't stop the momentum of the grab. In the end, even the cleaning talismans were snapped up. The supply was simply in short supply. Many customers who couldn't grab the talismans asked Wei Hong to draw them immediately and said that they could wait here. Wei Hong ignored these people's requests, but persuaded them kindly and said that he couldn't draw so many. After sending all the customers away, he chose to close the store again. The goods were sold out, so what else could he do if he didn't close the store? Damn it, these people are too crazy. They buy everything regardless of whether it is useful or not. They don't think about whether these talismans can be used if they really encounter weird things. Wei Hong shook his head, feeling helpless about the choices of those customers just now. But he couldn't decide other people's behavior, and those people's rush to buy could bring him huge profits. Wei Hong made a simple calculation. After selling all the talismans, he could earn at least 700 to 800 spiritual stones after deducting the materials and costs. It was a huge profit. However, this kind of thing can only happen once, and it is only because of special circumstances. After closing the shop, Wei Hong returned to the courtyard and prepared to continue to draw talismans with all his strength. There was no need to open the Lingfu Pavilion for the time being. He simply did not have the extra time and energy to draw other talismans in a short period of time. Now he focused on the 3 talisman techniques of exorcism, scorching sun and extermination, and tried to store as many exorcism talismans as possible in a short period of time. After returning to the courtyard, Wei Hong began to stay indoors. Next, he only did 2 things, that is, practice and draw talismans. At night, although Wei Hong was immersed in the state of practice, he could clearly hear 1 or 2 extremely shrill screams from time to time outside the courtyard. Obviously, the weirdness that was previously deterred and dissipated by the Xiang bell has returned again. Wei Hong didn't know where these strange sounds came from, but he knew that every scream represented the death of a life. Wei Hong closed his eyes and turned a deaf ear. At midnight, there was a sudden knock on the door outside the courtyard. Bang, bang, bang. The people outside seemed to be knocking very hard, as if they had encountered something urgent. Wei Hong frowned and didn't want to pay attention, but the knocks on the door outside continued, as if they would not stop until the door was opened. He thought about it and walked behind the door in full preparation. Which Taoist friend is outside? Why are you looking for Guan so late at night? To the outside world, Wei Hong still lived here as the formation master Guan Yu. After hearing Wei Hong's voice, the man outside the door suddenly shouted in surprise, "Friend Guan, open the door quickly. Friend Guan, I am Shen Lin, please open the door and help, save my life." Wei Hong frowned. From the voice, it turned out to be his neighbor Shen Lin, but he would not open the door rashly, so he asked loudly, "It turns out to be Friend Shen. Friend Shen, what happened? Why didn't you ask the patrol team for help, but found me here instead?" He didn't know whether the Shen Lin outside the door was real or fake, and he couldn't understand why Shen Lin came to him for help at midnight. Shen Lin outside the door seemed very anxious. He knocked on the door and begged urgently, "Friend Guan, I was just targeted by a weirdo. I used all means to force it back. Now I have lost all means to deal with it. I know that Friend Guan is a formation master. There must be more than one formation in your residence, and it must be safer than mine. So I hope Friend Guan can save my life." Shen Lin spoke in an orderly manner, and it seemed that he could completely explain why he asked Wei Hong for help. Chapter 457, Recruitment, Public Outrage. Wei Hong originally rented the courtyard number 30 under the identity of Guan Yu. The neighbors around him naturally all knew about his identity as a formation master. As for the identity of the talisman painter Lin Hong, he left the courtyard and then disguised himself to go to the Lingfu Pavilion. Now that his neighbor Shen Lin has suffered a strange threat, it seems reasonable for him to come to Wei Hong, A formation master, for help. However, Wei Hong would not listen to Shenlin's one-sided words. He frowned and said, "Fellow Taoist Shen, although Guan is a formation master, he only knows the water mist formation. This place is the same as your residence. Besides, Guan has no means to resist the weirdness. Please forgive me, fellow Taoist Shen. In short, it is impossible to let him in." When Shenlin outside the door heard this, he seemed to have lost his life and immediately shouted, "Fellow Taoist Guan, you can't just stand by and watch me die. Fellow Taoist Guan, I hope you can save me once for the sake of our acquaintance, and I will definitely reward you generously later." Wei Hong turned a deaf ear to him, and his face became more suspicious. He still couldn't determine Shenlin's identity, and didn't know whether he was a human or a ghost. If he was a ghost, then the exorcism talisman and the scorching sun talisman he posted on the courtyard wall didn't react at all. If he was a human, why did he give Wei Hong such a weird feeling? In fact, Wei Hong didn't know that Shenlin outside the door was neither a human nor a ghost at this time, but a being possessed by a weird evil spirit, so he didn't cause the exorcism talisman to react, and gave Wei Hong such a weird feeling. Fortunately, Wei Hong was very cautious. No matter how important other people's lives were, they were not as important as his own. In such a chaotic and dangerous night, how could he open the door casually for an outsider? Wei Hong ignored Shenlin's call for help, but refused firmly, "Fellow Taoist Shen, please forgive me. I am afraid that I cannot help you with my limited ability. Please find another place." After saying that, he did not care how Shenlin knocked on the door or shouted outside. After confirming that the formation was fully operational, he turned around and returned to the bedroom. On the third day, the Kingayan sect, which had been silent for a long time, finally made a move. Patrol teams dispersed and appeared in various places in the market town. The patrol captains led by the teams shouted loudly, "Everyone pay attention, everyone pay attention. Now I am announcing a notice on behalf of Kingayan sect. The content is as follows. Now that strange fog has suddenly appeared, weirdness is rampant, and evil spirits are causing chaos. We cultivators, as people in the world of immortal cultivation, should bravely kill the evil and eliminate weirdness to defend the way. From today on, all cultivators in Kingayan Mountain Market Town and those whose cultivation is above the 4th level of key training must be recruited into the team. Under the leadership of Kingayan sect, they will work together to eliminate weirdness and disperse the strange fog. Anyone who disobeys will be regarded as disrespecting Kingayan sect and will not be allowed to leave Kingayan Mountain Market Town for the rest of their lives. I hope that all Taoist friends will work together to kill the evil spirits." Kingayan sect sent out more than 10 or 20 patrol teams, which kept reading out the contents of the notice loudly in various places in the market town. Obviously, Kingayan sect's high-profile recruitment of monks from the market town was clearly intended to capture able-bodied men and use many monks from the market town for their services, so that they could deal with the weirdness and eliminate the strange fog together. If Kingayan sect did not move, it would be fine, but if it did move, it would be amazing. It must be said that Kingayan sect played this move beautifully. First of all, the strange fog appeared in the mountains near Kingayan sect. As long as the strange fog spread, Kingayan sect would be the first target, and the market town at the foot of Kingayan Mountain would not be spared. Therefore, Kingayan sect used this reason to raise the banner of righteousness, letting the world know that this was for the sake of the immortal world and for the monks in the market town themselves. Secondly, there are not many cultivators above the 4th level of key training in the whole Fangxi, but there are definitely not a few. After gathering together, there are still 4,000 or 5,000 people. Kingayan sect recruited these thousands of cultivators together to deal with the weirdness and eliminate the weird fog. It is estimated that they use the cultivators in Fangxi as cannon fodder. As long as the cultivators in Fangxi are not dead, the disciples of Kingayan sect will not be threatened at all. In this way, they can naturally protect the disciples of Kingayan sect to the greatest extent. Therefore, even if it may bear some infamy, Kingayan sect still chose to compulsorily recruit all cultivators above the 4th level of key training, which is also extremely in line with the style of major sects. As expected, when this compulsory recruitment notice spread throughout the Fangxi, it immediately set off an uproar. All cultivators, whether they are above the 4th level of key training or not, couldn't help cursing. Damn Kingayan sect, such a big sect, but they don't have any responsibility at all. To deal with some weird things, they even have to recruit low-level cultivators like us. Do they have any shame? Who said it wasn't? The strange fog appeared in the mountains near their Kingayan sect. Their Kingayan sect was the first to bear the brunt of it, and now they are using us as cannon fodder. Are you crazy? Kingayan sect doesn't even treat us as human beings. Do they really think we are easy to control? No, why should they recruit us? I don't eat a grain of rice from Kingayan sect, nor do I take a spirit stone from Kingayan sect. I'm just trying to make a living in this market. Why should I work for Kingayan sect? All kinds of remarks filled the entire market, including indignation and anger, dissatisfaction and secret hatred. In short, there were very few responses. After all, judging from the past few nights, the horror of the weird has become a consensus. The monks who stayed in the market were worried about being targeted by the weird. Who would be stupid enough to take the initiative to deal with the weird? Moreover, it was unknown how many weird things there were in the weird fog. Therefore, the monks who heard the noise all watched coldly, but no one said a word. Wei Hong's face changed slightly after hearing this notice, and he subconsciously wanted to resist this call. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew over on a sword. The figure went straight to the sky above the central square of the market, and a huge and terrifying pressure also enveloped it. Foundation building monk. After feeling this terrible pressure, the monks who had been cursing shut their mouths one after another, and did not dare to say another word, for fear of attracting the target of the foundation building monk in the air. Wei Hong's face condensed, and he immediately looked up. The foundation building monk flying in the air with a sword was wearing a dark blue standard robe, with a pattern of white clouds on a green background embroidered on the chest and cuffs of the robe. Obviously, this person is the foundation building inner sect disciple of Kingayan sect. He stepped on the flying sword, and his robe looked extremely elegant in the breeze. His hair was tied into an exquisite Taoist bun, and he wore a jade crown on it. The whole person looked very outstanding. At this time, the foundation building monk slowly glanced at the monks below from top to bottom, and then asked expressionlessly, "If anyone has any opinions, stand up and speak up." Chapter 458 Return to the Talisman Making Workshop. Silence. When the foundation building monk from the Kingayan sect spoke, the entire market seemed to fall into dead silence. An invisible pressure enveloped the entire place, as if a flying sword was hanging over everyone's head, as if it would directly chop down and cut everyone in half if they were not careful. Faced with such a threat hanging over their heads, who would dare to speak? The scene was dead silent. After a long while, the Kingayan sect disciple flying on the sword finally looked relieved. He then said in a cold voice, "I will repeat it again, and only say it once. From today on, Kingayan sect will recruit all cultivators above the 4th level of key training and below the 9th level of key training. Anyone who disobeys will be killed. Kingayan sect will never allow anyone to break the rules. You'd better not think about escaping. The market town of Kingayan Mountain has been closed. You can enter but not leave. Only reorganized cultivators can leave the market town under the leadership of us, and we will plant spiritual marks on you when you leave. Anyone who dares to escape without permission will be beheaded and shown to the public. There will be no mercy. Of course, we in Kingayan sect definitely don't mean to let you Taoists die. We will also dispatch 500 outer disciples and 10 inner disciples to lead the team to kill the weird together with you Taoists. In addition, for some Taoists with special skills, we will also assign tasks according to the situation. As long as you complete the task seriously, I promise that no one will make things difficult for you. Finally, our Kingayan sect will also give out many good things as mission rewards. As long as you complete the mission, you can get contribution points. As long as you have enough contribution points, you can even exchange for foundation building techniques." After saying this, the foundation building cultivator quietly waited for everyone's reaction. He seemed to know very well that after he said this, he could not only completely dispel the doubts and anger of many cultivators, but also completely mobilize the enthusiasm of those cultivators, so that they would accept the call without complaint. Sure enough, when the foundation building cultivator finished his last sentence, the cultivators in the entire market were completely blown up, and everyone was immediately in an uproar. What? Can I still exchange for foundation building techniques? Can I exchange for foundation building pills? Is this true or false? Why is Kingayan sect so generous? Impossible? Can I really exchange for foundation building techniques? Then why are you hesitating? You must go. Fortune is sought in danger. This is a rare opportunity. Haha, I will definitely exchange for foundation building techniques. At this moment, countless cultivators in the market were excited. They no longer had any resentment or dissatisfaction, but instead their eyes were filled with an indescribable burning light. You know, that was a foundation building technique. Let alone the price of a foundation building technique. Many cultivators, even if they had reached the peak of key training, might not have a way to find a foundation building technique, let alone buy one. Now that such a good opportunity was in front of everyone, who could refuse it? In addition to the foundation building technique, Kingai sect would surely also bring out other good things, such as elixirs, spells, etc., which were not comparable to ordinary street goods. As a result, these cultivators naturally wanted to set off immediately. Seeing this, the foundation building cultivator finally nodded slightly with satisfaction, and then without further ado, he immediately ordered people to start the conscription registration work, and set off immediately after preparations were made. After the cultivators in the market happily accepted the conscription, they behaved very obediently, and immediately began to line up to register. While registering their own information, they also began to check the exchange manuals distributed by Kingai sect. The exchange manual issued by Kingai sect detailed the contribution points required for various exchange items. There are many good things that make people salivate, for example, first-class magic and first-class talismans. For example, first-class magic tools and various elixirs with different effects. There are also various materials, etc. In short, every exchange item is very eye-catching. Wei Hong also got an exchange manual, but after seeing the exchange items on it, he secretly sighed. They are indeed good things, but you have to be alive to come back and exchange them. The horror of the weird is not something that ordinary people can resist. Even if King Aiman has dispatched 500 outer disciples and 10 inner disciples in the foundation building period to lead the team, who can guarantee that they can survive the invasion of the weird? At least Wei Hong will not be so optimistic, and he will not be blinded by the exchange items released by King Aiman. Alice, the situation is not as good as others, and I can't help but go. Wei Hong shook his head helplessly and prepared to queue up for registration. Since he can't resist, he can only accept it. He had no capital to resist now. In front of the giant Kingai sect, they were just like ants. All they could do was obey orders. Just when Wei Hong was about to take action, a patrolman came to the front of his Lingfu pavilion. But fellow Taoist Lin Honglin. The patrolman came to Wei Hong and asked directly. It's Lin. Wei Hong nodded and couldn't help asking, what do you want from me? It's very simple. We want to recruit fellow Taoist Lin to draw talismans for our Kingai sect. The patrolman explained, and then asked, fellow Taoist Lin should be a first-class middle-grade talisman painter, right? Of course, I heard it right, you want to recruit me to draw talismans. Wei Hong was stunned for a moment, and then a burst of ecstasy rose in his heart. If he was really recruited to draw talismans, Wei Hong would be 100% happy. Because compared to other cultivators going to the battlefield, drawing talismans is simply a task that cannot be safer. Besides, drawing talismans should also earn contribution points. In this way, he can naturally complete the task by drawing talismans, and then exchange the contribution points for the items he needs. This is the best choice for Wei Hong. The patrolman nodded and said, yes, Brother Lin can open a shop to sell talismans, so his ability to draw talismans is naturally not bad. He can also draw exorcism talismans and scorching sun talismans, which just meets our requirements for recruiting monks with special skills, so please come. I see, let's go. Wei Hong also nodded and understood the reason. Since this is the case, he is even less likely to refuse. Why not draw talismans without having to deal with weirdness? So he immediately followed the patrolman and walked towards the original talisman workshop. Are we going to the talisman workshop? Wei Hong frowned and asked casually. The patrolman said without turning his head, that's right. All the talisman painters who meet the requirements have been recruited by us, and then gathered in the talisman making workshop to draw talismans together. Only the talisman making workshop can provide you with the most suitable environment for drawing talismans. The two talked as they walked, and soon arrived in front of the gate of the talisman making workshop. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459, What a Fate. Talisman Workshop. Looking at the familiar gate in front of him, Wei Hong was filled with emotion. I didn't expect to be back here again. It's fate. Reality is so tricky. Wei Hong didn't expect that he had changed his identity, but after going around in circles, he still returned here, back to the talisman workshop. How can such a situation not make people sigh? However, Wei Hong did not show the strangeness in his heart at all, but remained calm. When he walked to the gate of the talisman workshop, the patrolman stopped and said, "Friend Lin, you can go in by yourself. The steward Su inside has already asked someone to receive you. Just go in." Staff Su. Hearing this name, Wei Hong's eyes flashed, and he knew that the talisman workshop must have a new steward, so he smiled and said, "Okay, thank you, fellow Taoist." The two separated immediately, and Wei Hong walked straight into the familiar yet slightly unfamiliar talisman workshop. He said familiar because he had worked here for a long time. The reason why it was a little strange was that the talisman workshop was mostly destroyed by the Blood Eagle robbers, and now many buildings have been rebuilt, so it feels a little strange. After entering the talisman workshop, Wei Hong walked towards the talisman painting workshop very skillfully. Soon, he ran into a servant from the talisman workshop. "Senior, are you here to answer the call?" the servant asked respectfully. "Yes." Wei Hong nodded and said, "Where is your steward? Take me to see him. Please come this way." The servant immediately led the way. Wei Hong followed him and came to the A-shaped independent courtyard of the talisman painting workshop. "Master Steward, this senior is the talisman painter who came here to answer the call." After arriving at the courtyard, the servant immediately introduced him respectfully to the steward standing in the middle of the courtyard. After that, he stepped aside very sensibly and stopped talking. The man called the steward was a middle-aged man of medium build, wearing a light blue robe, with a square face and a serious look. After hearing the introduction of the servant, the middle-aged man immediately turned to look at Wei Hong. "What's your name, fellow Taoist?" "I'm Su Qin, the new manager of the talisman workshop." The new manager, Su Qin, was a master of the 8th level of key training. Wei Hong's face was slightly condensed, and he immediately stepped forward and bowed, saying, "I'm Lin Hong, meet Senior Su. I'm here at your request. I hope Senior Su will take care of me." "No problem." Su Qin pulled the corner of his mouth, revealing a smile, and then said, "I've heard of fellow Taoist Lin's great name, so next, please stay in this talisman workshop for a while. As long as you can complete the task, everything else is fine." "Of course." Wei Hong nodded. "Well, then, fellow Taoist Lin, you can use the number 9 talisman drawing room in this courtyard from now on. You only need to focus on drawing the Fiery Sun talisman. The daily task is 10 pieces. After completing the task, you will get 100 contribution points. I will order people to supply all the materials needed for drawing talismans at any time. Fellow Taoist, don't worry." Su Qin didn't mention what would happen if the task was not completed, and Wei Hong seemed to have forgotten about it. Because they both knew that there was no need for any punishment, Wei Hong would go all out to complete the task, even if it was not for the exchange of rewards, but for his own consideration. Wei Hong nodded and agreed, "Okay, thank you, Senior Su." After explaining the matter, Wei Hong came to the number 9 talisman drawing room under the guidance of the servant. "Hey, a class A talisman drawing room? I didn't even have the qualification to occupy it before." Looking at this talisman drawing room that was twice as large, Wei Hong laughed at himself. As the saying goes, since you are here, you should make the best of it. After a lot of twists and turns, you are back to the talisman drawing workshop. Then just draw talismans honestly and don't think about other things for now. After settling down, Wei Hong first sat in meditation for a while, suppressed all kinds of distracting thoughts and emotions, and then began to draw talismans. The talisman drawing J table was already full of materials, including a first-level mid-grade talisman pen, a first-level mid-grade talisman skin and spiritual ink, which was very complete. Wei Hong placed the materials in a convenient place, laid out the talisman skin, put the spiritual ink, and finally picked up the talisman pen and dipped it in the spiritual ink, and then began to draw the Scorching Sun talisman. He knew very well that the reason why Su Qin asked him to draw the Scorching Sun talisman specifically was because the Scorching Sun talisman could effectively deal with weirdness, so this was also the reason why he was recruited. Wei Hong's every stroke showed the style of a master. If someone saw Wei Hong's writing flowing like a dragon and a snake, they would probably be shocked, because he was extremely relaxed at the moment, as if he had drawn a scorching sun talisman with just a stroke. The reason for this is not only because Wei Hong's cultivation has reached the realm of drawing first-level middle-grade talismans, but also because he has already maxed out the scorpion technique of the Fiery Sun talisman to the limit. He is already familiar with the Fiery Sun talisman like the lines on his palm, and his experience in drawing the Fiery Sun talisman is even richer, so he can draw Fiery Sun talisman so easily. He has never shown this in front of outsiders. In fact, his success rate in drawing first-level middle-grade talismans has already reached more than 70%. If it weren't for his cultivation that limited him, his success rate might be even higher. Therefore, he only needs to hand in 10 Fiery Sun talismans every day. This task is too simple for Wei Hong, and it only takes half a day to complete. As for the rest of the time, what should he do with the extra talismans he drew? Needless to say, all of them belong to him. Such a good opportunity, he will not miss it. In the following time, Wei Hong was busy drawing talismans every day. For the tasks assigned by Su Qin, he was able to complete them on time and in quantity every time. But he was extremely low-key and not at all ostentatious. On weekdays, he rarely communicated with other talisman painters who were recruited. Apart from drawing talismans, he practiced. However, no one knew that after completing the tasks every day, Wei Hong spent the rest of his time drawing various talismans. These talismans were secretly deducted by him and then put into his own pocket. Anyway, no one knew what the success rate of his talisman drawing was, and he could always complete various tasks. In this way, naturally no one would ask anything, which also allowed him to quickly accumulate a large amount of talismans. After all, there are free materials for drawing talismans, so it's better to use them. Moreover, Wei Hong did not forget the research on the talisman for killing evil. After accumulating a large amount of various talismans, he also began to gradually shift his focus to the talisman for killing evil, striving to draw the talisman for killing evil as soon as possible. In fact, regardless of the cost, and the fact that he had already maxed out the talisman for killing evil to the limit, even though he only had the 5th level of key training, it took him less than half a month to increase the success rate of the talisman for killing evil to 20%. In this way, he slowly accumulated some talismans for killing evil in secret. Chapter 460, Encirclement and Suppression of Strange Fog. Half a month later. After the integration and preliminary coordination and drill, the monk army finally set out. Before the monk army set out, King Ainman used 2 powerful magic weapons and a monitoring magic weapon, as well as 10 foundation-building monks who were responsible for leading the team to sweep the entire market in the past few days, and completely eliminated all the weirdness that had sneaked into the market. In addition, in order to ensure that no weirdness would sneak in again, King Ainman also specially activated multiple formations to turn Kingayan Mountain Market into an extremely safe area, which made all the monks in the market feel much more at ease. When the monk army set out, the 10 foundation-building monks each led a team of people and went straight to the location of the strange fog from different directions, ready to encircle and eliminate the weirdness and eliminate the strange fog together. This time, because King Ainman offered a large number of generous rewards, coupled with compulsory conscription, the number of people going out was as high as more than 5,000, and each foundation-building monk led more than 500 people. The foundation-building cultivator who was in charge of recruiting that day was named Lu Junmin, a cultivator at the peak of the initial stage of foundation building. Looking at the more than 500 cultivators gathered on the ground, Lu Junmin waved his hand without any nonsense, and a flying boat suddenly appeared in the air. After the flying boat appeared, it immediately swelled up against the wind and turned directly into a huge flying boat that was 20 meters long and 3 meters high. Such an amazing move instantly stunned the more than 500 cultivators below. It can be said that most of these cultivators have never seen a flying boat, let alone such a huge flying boat. Lu Junmin was very satisfied with the reactions of the crowd. He introduced it with a little pride. This is the divine wind boat that our elder personally handed down for this operation. This flying boat is extremely fast and can carry hundreds of people at the same time. With this flying boat in hand, we don't have to run around. Now, everyone get on the boat. After saying that, Lu Junmin cast a spell to control the flying boat to slowly land on the ground, allowing more than 500 monks waiting on the ground to board the flying boat one after another. After everyone got on the flying boat, Lu Junmin waved his hand and controlled the flying boat to immediately take off and fly eastward. At the same time, the other 9 foundation-building monks did the same. This can be regarded as Kingayan sect's thoughtful consideration. They knew that the key training cultivators did not have the means to fly, and there were so many people gathered at the same time. If they ran over from the ground, not to mention the time consumed, perhaps many people would be completely separated. After flying high into the sky, a layer of white light immediately appeared on the surface of the huge flying boat, covering the entire flying boat tightly and blocking the fierce wind in the sky. Otherwise, these key training monks would be blown to death or frozen to death. Along the way, the key training monks and the flying boat whispered to each other. It was obvious that they were very curious about riding a flying boat for the first time, and they also had a little more confidence in this action. Soon, an hour later, they arrived near their destination. Looking down from the sky, you can clearly see that there is a thick black fog covering the mountains and forests below, and this black fog has no tendency to dissipate. Even if the breeze blows, it is not shaken. Moreover, this black fog is still slowly spreading, covering and swallowing the surrounding mountains and forests and various things step by step. Even if you are still in the sky, even if you are far away, as long as you see this black fog, you can feel the unsettling atmosphere of evil, coldness, bloodthirstiness and terror. The black fog can also block the line of sight, making it impossible for people to see the scene within the range of the black fog. Lu Junman stood on the bow of the flying boat with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "See? The black fog below is the strange fog. Now the strange fog has spread here. If we don't find a way to contain it, it will soon spread to Kingayan Mountain. No one can escape then. So, fellow Taoists, please work together to deal with the strangeness together. Let's go." After saying that, Lu Junman stomped his feet lightly. The entire flying boat began to slowly descend, and then landed 2 miles away from the edge of the strange fog. "Everyone, get off the boat immediately and prepare." After parking the flying boat, Lu Junman immediately gave an order. More than 500 key training realm cultivators did not dare to neglect it at this time, and hurriedly got off the flying boat. Then they dispersed into 2 rows with a vigilant look on their faces, staring at the strange fog not far ahead. At this time, the distance was very close, and everyone could feel the various evil and terrifying auras contained in the strange fog more clearly. Lu Junman waved his hand, shrunk the flying boat, and then looked at the strange fog in front of him. Then he gave the order, "Everyone listen, disperse, and everyone should be at least 10 feet apart. Go." After that, Lu Junman took out a flying sword. The more than 500 key training cultivators naturally did not dare to disobey the order. They immediately dispersed and walked slowly towards the strange fog step by step. At the same time, various magic tools and talismans were held in their hands, and they were obviously ready for battle. Every key training cultivator was cautious and extremely careful at this time. They slowly approached the strange fog, and the closer they got, the more they felt a cold breath that seemed to penetrate into their bones. Release. When they came to a position 10 feet away from the edge of the strange fog, Lu Junman immediately gave a loud command. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand violently, and more than 10 huge fireballs suddenly appeared in the air, and then fell fiercely towards the strange fog in front. After hearing the order, the more than 500 key training cultivators activated the talismans in their hands and threw them out. Fireball Talisman, Exorcist Talisman, Blazing Sun Talisman, Golden Sword Talisman, Hurricane Talisman, all kinds of talismans rushed to smash the strange fog in front. At this moment, the strange fog that was originally spreading quietly suddenly surged like a tide, and the invisible aura was completely alarmed, and then enveloped the key training realm monks. Rumble. Puff. A series of loud explosions came, and the surge and spread of the strange fog were immediately curbed. Then the flames rose, the blazing sun suddenly appeared, and various talismans began to show their power, making this originally dark area suddenly become extremely bright. Under the terrible power of hundreds of various talismans, the surging strange fog began to slowly melt. And those strange things that approached the key training realm monks also let out invisible screams. "Okay, it really works, keep fighting, don't stop." Seeing the scene of the strange fog slowly dissipating, Lu Junman was naturally overjoyed. The other monks also looked relieved, and their originally tense expressions eased a little. Many people seemed to have the illusion that the strange fog and weirdness were nothing more than that. However, they did not know that the danger had not really arrived yet. Chapter 461 Bad News, Fierce Battle. Chi. Under the illumination of the fiery sun talisman, the invisible strangeness was like a red-hot iron encountering snow, and was immediately burned with a stream of green smoke. However, this seemed to have completely angered the invisible strangeness in the strange fog. Buzz! Invisible sound waves stirred the air thoroughly, and then turned into ripples that seemed to be real and spread rapidly around. Puff puff puff. More than a dozen monks were hit by these sound waves, and they immediately spurted blood. The whole person was withered and suffered heavy injuries. Just attack, use all means. Lu Junmin turned a blind eye to this scene, but shouted indifferently. Many monks were shocked. How could they dare to be careless? So they all attacked with all their strength. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of fireballs kept bombarding the strange fog in front. Wood thorns, wind blades, falling rocks, water arrows, golden swords, all kinds of spells were used crazily as if they were free, and the whole area was instantly plowed. The strange fog that originally enveloped the entire forest was instantly dispersed by more than 30 feet. At the same time, the key training cultivators either used magic weapons or various means to attack the area in front of them, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Among them, Lu Junmin was the most eye-catching. He first stretched out his hand and pointed, and a flying sword flew out like a stream of light, turning into a giant sword and slashing directly at the strange fog. Then he pinched his hands together, and after 3 breaths, he suddenly pointed at the strange fog in front. Boom! A bolt of thick thunder appeared out of thin air and struck directly at the strange fog. The flying sword and the thunder struck almost at the same time. At this moment, lightning and thunder flashed in the strange fog, and the sword energy was crisscrossed, completely dispersing a large area of strange fog, and reappearing the forest covered by the strange fog. Its powerful and terrifying momentum far surpassed that of the key training cultivators. Many key training cultivators were immediately inspired, and immediately used various spells or magic weapons to attack the strange fog range, regardless of whether it had any effect. However, at this moment, a shrill scream that was so sharp that it was about to pierce the eardrum suddenly sounded. Squeak! The air was shaken and ripples appeared. Lu Junmin's face changed slightly, and he immediately shouted, "It is a strange soul-sucking sound. Everyone should keep their minds focused immediately and don't be confused by this strange sound." After that, he threw out a thick stack of talismans. But Lu Junmin's reminder was obviously a little late. Although most of the cultivators immediately closed their ears and kept their minds focused, trying not to be confused by the soul-sucking sound, there were still more than 20 cultivators at the 4th and 5th levels of key training who failed to detect the danger in time. They were just a little slow to react and were immediately hit. The more than 20 cultivators in the key training realm stopped all their actions in an instant, and then the whole person seemed to have lost his soul, his eyes became blurred, and then he walked towards the strange fog without any defense. "Quick, stop them!" Lu Junmin shouted coldly. But at this time, everyone was keeping their minds focused, and waves of soul-sucking sounds kept coming. At this time, no one had the energy to stop the more than 20 monks. They could only watch them walk into the strange fog and be completely swallowed. At this moment, all the surviving monks felt a chill in their hearts. All the luck they had before was thrown out of the sky, and the cruel reality made everyone sober up. There was no need for Lu Junmin to remind them again. These surviving monks would raise their vigilance to the highest level. The soul-sucking sound lasted for half an incense stick, and then slowly subsided. With the help of this time, the strange fog that had been dispelled came again. "Kill, no one is allowed to retreat," Lu Junmin shouted, and his hands continued to attack. The other key training monks naturally did not dare to stop for a moment, and attacked the strange fog one after another. 2 months later. In the past 2 months, Kingayan sect has organized a large number of monks to carry out a carpet-style clearing of the mountains and forests in the area where the strange fog is located. 10 foundation-building monks led the team and used various means to dispel the strange fog. This caused great casualties, and many monks never returned. Wei Hong stayed in the talisman workshop for 2 consecutive months. Every day, he either drew talismans or practiced. Although his life was monotonous and boring, it was extremely safe. Compared with the monks on the front line, it was leisurely and comfortable. After completing his task today, Wei Hong walked out of the talisman workshop and came to the market on a whim. Just after leaving the talisman workshop, he saw that some monks in the market were either pale or bandaged, or limping. Obviously, they had suffered a lot of injuries and had not yet fully recovered. As a cultivator, even the external injuries have not recovered. Is it really so tragic? Wei Hong frowned secretly, thought about it, and walked forward. But when he strolled around, he found that the situation was far more serious than he imagined. There were many disabled patients in the market, some with broken arms and legs, and some half dead. In short, it looked like a camp for the wounded. This situation made Wei Hong's face heavy, and at the same time, he felt lucky that he was recruited to the talisman workshop instead of going to the front line to deal with the weird, otherwise he would probably be seriously injured. Time and fate, no matter how generous the reward is, you have to have a life to exchange it. Looking at the disabled patients, Wei Hong shook his head and sighed. He walked slowly towards the courtyard, and when he was almost back to the door, he met another neighbor, Chen Yan. "Hey, fellow Taoist Chen, are you going out?" Seeing Chen Yan preparing to go out, Wei Hong asked casually. After seeing Wei Hong, Chen Yan nodded with a gloomy expression and said, "Yes, fellow Taoist Guan, are you just back?" "Not bad." Wei Hong nodded, greeted and prepared to go back. But at this time Chen Yan stopped, looked at Wei Hong and said, "Daoya Guan, do you know that Taoist Jin has died?" "What? Didn't Taoist Jin have the cultivation level of the 6th level of key training? Why did he suddenly die? Is it because of something strange?" Wei Hong was shocked when he heard this and asked hurriedly. Taoist Jin was one of his more familiar neighbors, and they had some friendship. Now that he heard the news of Taoist Jin's death, Wei Hong couldn't help but be a little surprised. Chen Yan sighed and said, "Yes, it was because of something strange. Dao Yaojin had the cultivation level of the 6th level of key training, so he was naturally among the recruits, and he worked very hard to exchange for the foundation building technique. But just the day before yesterday, I suddenly heard the news of Taoist Jin's death. After I confirmed it, Taoist Jin was indeed dead. Alice, I don't know if it was because of the reason that the rabbit died and the fox mourned." Chen Yan felt very sorry for the news of Taoist Jin's death. Chapter 462, Breakthrough to the 6th level of key training. Both of them were silent. Whether it was because of the grief of the rabbit or the empathy, Wei Hong and Chen Yan felt a little sad when they heard about the death of Jin Doran. Wei Hong knew very well that there were definitely many cultivators like Jin Doran who died for the reward of Kingai sect. But many people knew that the road ahead was dangerous, so why did they continue to fight for it? It was just because it was too difficult for casual cultivators. They had no background, no resources, and even no way to obtain various resources. It was sad to think about it. So Jin Doran would fight for a foundation building technique, and Wei Hong understood this very well. Moreover, the purpose of cultivating immortals is to compete. They must have the courage to compete for various resources and opportunities. If they don't compete, they will always fall behind, and it is impossible to stand out. Faced with such a reality, a large number of casual cultivators have to face the weirdness for this. If Wei Hong had not been recruited to the talisman painting workshop, he would most likely have fought for the foundation building technique. Fortunately I have a skill. Fortunately I can get contribution points just by drawing talismans. Wei Hong was extremely grateful. After a moment of silence, Wei Hong sighed and said, "Fellow Taoist Chen, the dead cannot be resurrected. Since fellow Taoist Chen is already dead, we still have to look forward." Chen Yan nodded silently, forced a smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Guan is right, then I won't bother fellow Taoist Guan for now, I'm leaving." "Okay, fellow Taoist Chen, take care." Wei Hong nodded heavily and watched the other party leave. Shaking his head slightly, he turned back to the courtyard. Days passed. Kingai sect was still organizing people to carry out a carpet-style cleanup of the strange fog. Even if they suffered a lot of casualties, they still did not stop. Because once they stopped, the strange fog would continue to spread, and then they would definitely not be able to escape the swallowing of the strange fog. So no matter how difficult it was, Kingai sect still gritted their teeth and persisted. But for ordinary cultivators in the market, this was a long-lasting disaster. Many monks suffered various degrees of injuries after going to battle several times, and many of them did not even have the chance to come back, just like Taoist Jin, who ended up dead. However, under the organization of Kingai sect, batches of monks continued to go out. Wei Hong ignored the situation outside and stayed in the talisman workshop to focus on drawing talismans. Moreover, because of his excellent performance in the talisman workshop, he gradually handed in more talismans while completing the tasks, and occasionally handed in some evil-killing talismans, which made the steward Sukin very satisfied, and Wei Hong also gained a lot of contribution points. Today, Wei Hong took the contribution point token and walked to the exchange point again. There was a long queue at the exchange point, and he waited for a long time before it was his turn to exchange. Stepping forward, Wei Hong handed over the token and said, "Please help me exchange 2 bottles of Yang Yuan Dan and 1 bottle of Zenqi Dan." "Thank you. Tisk, fellow Taoist Lin, you are here to exchange pills again? Okay, please wait." The outer disciple of King Iron Mountain in charge of exchanging items couldn't help but laugh when he saw Wei Hong appear. Obviously, Wei Hong, who had come to exchange pills many times, had made him very familiar. Wei Hong smiled and nodded and said, "Haha, yes, thank you, fellow Taoist." He came here to exchange pills more than once or twice. In the past few months, he had earned a lot of contribution points by drawing talismans, most of which he exchanged for pills to improve his cultivation. As a result, he once again lived a life of taking drugs and practicing, and his cultivation speed increased a lot. It was also because of this that the Kingayan sect disciples in charge of exchanging and distributing supplies became familiar with him. Soon, Wei Hong's token and 3 bottles of pills were placed in front of him. "Fellow Taoist Lin, here are the 3 bottles of elixirs you requested, as well as your token. Please keep them." Wei Hong took the elixirs and thanked him. "Thank you, fellow Taoist. I'll take my leave now." He then turned and left, and returned directly to his residence. After returning to the courtyard, Wei Hong went directly to the bed in the bedroom and sat cross-legged. He thought for a moment, put away a bottle of Yang Yuan Dan and a bottle of Zenqi Dan, leaving only a bottle of Yang Yuan Dan in front of him, then opened the bottle cap and poured out a pill the size of a longan, and swallowed it into his stomach. The pill entered his mouth and instantly turned into a warm current that entered his danshan. Wei Hong did not dare to neglect it, and hurriedly operated the King Mu Ju to start absorbing the medicinal power with all his strength, and continued to absorb the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth, slowly strengthening his own spiritual power. He operated the technique over and over again, constantly absorbing the medicinal power. Wei Hong was already familiar with this process, and he had practiced like this almost every day for the past few months. It was also a pull-up. If those monks who went to the front line to deal with the strange fog knew that Wei Hong's life was so comfortable, not only was there no threat, but he also got a lot of contribution points and could exchange a lot of pills to assist in cultivation. They didn't know what to think. At least Wei Hong was still very satisfied with this kind of life for now. He closed his eyes tightly and immersed himself in cultivation. After 2 hours, he slowly opened his eyes. A ray of light flashed, but Wei Hong did not stop practicing. Instead, he poured out 2 Yang Yuan Dan and swallowed them into his mouth at the same time, not worrying that the drug power was too fierce and violent. "I'm just a little bit away from breaking through to the 6th level of key training, just in one go." With this idea in mind, Wei Hong put all his mind into refining the drug power and practicing, striving to succeed tonight and become a cultivator of the 6th level of key training. The surging drug power of the 2 pills made Wei Hong's face slightly red. While running the King Mu Ju with all his strength, a faint green light began to emanate from his body, and there seemed to be a faint fresh smell of grass and trees. Fortunately, the power of the Yang Yuan pill was quite mild. Even if he swallowed 2 pills at the same time, Wei Hong was still able to control and refine them, and let his spiritual power slowly grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. As time went by, the aura emanating from his body began to become stronger and stronger. Fortunately, with the cover and isolation of the formation, people outside the courtyard could not detect Wei Hong's movements and changes at all. I don't know how long it took, but there seemed to be a slight click in the void. The aura on Wei Hong's body suddenly became more than twice as strong as before, and the faint green light emanating from his body suddenly became brighter. At the same time, Wei Hong suddenly opened his eyes. A beam of light burst out from his eyes, as if it could illuminate the night. Wei Hong exhaled lightly, and then couldn't help laughing. "Haha, good, I finally broke through. It's worth it that I invested all the contribution points I earned in the past few months in the pills, haha." At this moment, Wei Hong felt extremely refreshed after the breakthrough. Chapter 463, Erysipelas, Shock and Anger. After almost 2 years of hard training, he finally broke through. Moreover, Wei Hong had invested countless pills, and now he finally got a huge return. It's not easy. If it were an ordinary casual cultivator, he might not be able to afford a bottle of pills in half a year. It seems that responding to the call of Kingayan sect this time is a good choice. Wei Hong was filled with infinite emotion. But now he was mostly happy. After all, after breaking through to the 6th level of key training, his strength had increased dramatically again. With the means he could get out in the open, it was definitely easy to deal with cultivators of the same level. Even the outer disciples of Kingayan sect of the same level might not be able to defeat him. Of course, Wei Hong would not be so high profile as to take the initiative to provoke the disciples of Kingayan sect. After a long while, he suppressed the joy and various distracting thoughts in his heart. Then he closed his eyes again, ready to feel the strength after the breakthrough. But after a moment, Wei Hong suddenly opened his eyes, a trace of doubt and confusion flashed in his eyes, and his face suddenly became heavy. What's going on? Why does my spiritual power feel a little bit unsmooth? Wei Hong seemed a little bit unbelievable, so he closed his eyes again and continued to practice the technique. However, when he practiced a King Muju this time, he could still clearly feel that the spiritual power in his body was not as smooth as before. Although the spiritual power had more than doubled, it felt very obscure when it was running, and even when it was mobilized, it felt much slower. What's going on? Why did my strength decrease instead of increasing? Wei Hong's face suddenly became ugly, and there was an inexplicable anger in his eyes. He frowned and whispered, "Is there something wrong with the pill? No, it's impossible. If there is a problem with the pill, I can't break through. There must be a reason I don't know." The sudden problem made Wei Hong very irritable and uneasy. Because this is related to his own cultivation foundation and strength, there must be no mistakes or flaws. He originally thought that after this breakthrough, his strength would be greatly improved, but who knew that it would decrease instead of increase, which was really unexpected for Wei Hong. At this moment, the spiritual power in his body was not only less smooth and round than usual, but also felt very obscure, as if it was mixed with something, making his spiritual power less pure. As a result, his ability to exert strength naturally decreased instead of increased. Imagine that the spell that could be cast instantly was delayed by 1 or 2 breaths due to the slow operation of spiritual power. This time was enough to decide life and death, and it also made Wei Hong's strength only exert 50% or 60%. How could such a result not make Wei Hong extremely angry? He didn't even know what caused it, so he seemed extremely irritable. Wei Hong took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled, and then said to himself, "Don't be anxious, don't lose your composure at this time. Anger and irritability are useless, it's better to think about what caused it first." He tried to calm himself down. After all, the problem had already appeared, and it was useless to be helpless and bored. It was better to think about the reason carefully. So Wei Hong lowered his head and pondered, trying to find the cause and solve the problem as soon as possible. After thinking about it for a long time, Wei Hong still couldn't figure out the real reason. At this time, his eyes suddenly accidentally saw the bottle of Yang Yuan Dan in front of him, and then a flash of lightning seemed to flash through his mind, completely splitting the original doubts. Pills? Could it be because I swallowed a lot of pills? I heard that if you swallow too many pills, you will not only develop drug resistance, but also slowly accumulate pill poison in your body. Could it be that my spiritual power has become so obscure because of the mixture of pill poison? The more Wei Hong thought about it, the more certain he was. Because apart from this reason, he couldn't figure out why his spiritual power would become like this. After thinking about it, only this reason could explain it. It should be right. It must be the problem of pill poison. I didn't pay attention before, so I didn't get rid of the pill poison in time after practicing. Now that the pill poison is mixed in the spiritual power, it will be difficult to get rid of it. Thinking that the pill poison in the spiritual power is now very difficult to get rid of, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh. He had not expected that swallowing a large amount of pills would lead to such serious problems. Originally, he thought that he could buy a large amount of pills to assist in cultivation, which was a good thing that ordinary people could not even ask for. But now it seems that the risk is not small. In fact, Wei Hong himself knew that this was mainly because he was a casual cultivator, without background and no one to guide him, and lacked certain common sense, so such problems occurred. If he were a disciple of a sect, these problems would never occur. It's still because of the lack of foundation. Wei Hong sighed and couldn't help shaking his head and said, "Without various inheritance classics, I naturally have less knowledge and common sense than the disciples of the sect. This is something I can't catch up with in a short time. Take Kingayan sect for example. After thousands of years of inheritance, it is hard to tell how many inheritance classics have been collected. There are countless classics on the cultivation of immortal arts, human geography, cultivation experience, and various miscellaneous studies. Therefore, as long as the disciples of Kingayan sect read through some of them, their knowledge is not comparable to Wei Hong. However, Wei Hong did not care much about this aspect. He believed that as long as his cultivation level was improved, he would go to various markets to search for various classics, and his knowledge and common sense about the world of immortal cultivation would gradually improve. The key issue now was how to get rid of the poison of the elixir. At least Wei Hong himself had no way. If I were a cultivator in the golden core stage, it would be easy. I only needed to use my own elixir fire to continuously refine it, and the elixir poison would naturally be completely eliminated. But now I only have the 6th level of key training. In addition to the elixir fire, I must seek external help to eliminate the elixir poison. But where should I find it? Look for a way in ancient books? Or ask someone? Or go to the treasure house to ask if there are any techniques or elixirs to purify spiritual power? Wei Hong's mind was turning rapidly, and various ideas gradually emerged. The golden core stage was too far away for him now, and there was no need to think about it. And although he had some guesses now, he could not really determine whether his problem was caused by the elixir poison. Therefore, Wei Hong wanted to find someone to ask before making any plans. Chapter 464 Contribution Points, Please help. 3 days later. Wei Hong has been extremely busy in the past 3 days. He first went to the talisman workshop in the morning to complete the task, and then went to the shop selling ancient books in the afternoon to make inquiries. At the same time, he also went to the treasure pavilion or the pill pavilion to make obscure inquiries. However, he did not get any useful information, which made Wei Hong more and more irritable. So, he began to mobilize his few connections and inquire around to find a solution, even if he paid a large amount of spiritual stones for it. Whether it was the neighbors who were very familiar with him, or the shopkeepers who often came to chat, or the monks who had dealt with him in the market, they were all within the scope of Wei Hong's inquiry. However, the people he found either had similar experiences, had never swallowed a large amount of pills, or simply did not understand the common sense in this area, so Wei Hong ran around for several days and still got nothing. Later, he reflected on himself and felt that he might be looking in the wrong direction. The people who knew this problem best in this market were definitely the people of Kingayan sect. Oh, how could I forget to ask Manager Su? He should know something. Wei Hong slapped his head and couldn't help but smile bitterly. So he immediately went to the talisman workshop and found the Manager Su Qin in person. Manager Su, I want to ask you for a favor, is it okay? After finding Su Qin, Wei Hong asked straight to the point. Su Qin looked curious and asked with a smile, oh? It's rare for Brother Lin to find me, haha. Brother Lin, if you have anything to say, just ask. In the past few months, Su Qin has seen all of Wei Hong's performance and is very satisfied with his performance, so he is also very happy to interact with Wei Hong. Wei Hong said seriously, this is what's going on. I want Manager Su to help me find someone to find out why the spiritual power suddenly became obscure and run slowly, and what the solution is. If Manager Su can help me find a solution, I will be very grateful and will repay you generously. Spiritual power suddenly became obscure and run slowly. Su Qin was stunned when he heard this, and after a while he frowned and asked, what is the reason for this? Has Brother Lin been out recently? Su Qin seemed to be implying that Wei Hong might have been ambushed by someone, or that he might have been practicing too much. Wei Hong understood what Su Qin meant. He shook his head and said, absolutely not. Manager Su knows where Lin is. He stays in the workshop to draw talismans every day. As for the reason, if Lin knew it, he would not have to come to Manager Su for help. That's true. Su Qin nodded, thought for a while and said, don't worry, fellow Taoist Lin, I can't answer your question, but I will try my best to find a senior brother from Kingayan sect to ask you. That senior brother is proficient in alchemy and pharmacology, and I believe he should be able to solve fellow Taoist Lin's problem. As for the reward, fellow Taoist Lin, you are too polite. It's just a small favor. There's no need to be so. Su Qin nodded very straightforwardly and agreed to the matter. Wei Hong was waiting for him to say this, so he immediately clasped his fists and thanked him. Okay, thank you, Manager Su. Please notify Lin immediately when you have any news. Su Qin smiled and replied, haha, of course, fellow Taoist Lin, don't worry. It's just that there is one thing that needs to be made clear to fellow Taoist Lin in advance to avoid any misunderstandings. Wei Hong's face straightened, and he immediately said, "Please speak frankly, Manager Su. It's not a problem. The main thing is that this senior brother I know may be able to help you solve the problem, but it's not free. Fellow Taoist Lin, you may have to pay a large amount of contribution points for this. If you agree, I will help you ask." Su Qin was also frank enough, and he bluntly stated the price that Wei Hong needed to pay. Wei Hong was naturally prepared for a long time. When he heard that he had to pay contribution points instead of spirit stones, he was relieved. He immediately answered without hesitation, "No problem, Manager Su, just go and ask. I am confident that I can still earn some contribution points." "Okay, it's easy," with fellow Taoist Lin's words. Su Qin clapped his hands, and the matter was settled. Wei Hong chatted with him for a few words and then turned away. 2 days later, after Su Qin's introduction and a large amount of contribution points, the outer sect disciple of Qingayan sect that Su Qin knew finally agreed to meet with Wei Hong, and then personally instructed and solved Wei Hong's problem. Under Su Qin's arrangement, Wei Hong and the outer sect disciple met in a reception room of the Talisman Workshop. When Wei Hong saw a cultivator of the 8th level of key training pushing the door and entering, he immediately stood up and bowed and said, "I am Lin Hong, and I am honored to meet you, fellow Taoist Li." "Oh? Are you fellow Taoist Lin?" Li Yuanting, an outer sect disciple of Qingayan sect, glanced at Wei Hong indifferently, with a hint of arrogance and condescension in his expression. Wei Hong frowned, but on the surface he remained calm. "It is me, fellow Taoist Li, please take a seat." "Yes." Li Yuanting raised his head high, and then sat down. Wei Hong had naturally anticipated the behavior of these sect disciples, and now he was asking for help from others, so he didn't care. After Li Yuanting sat down, he personally poured him a cup of tea. In order to avoid suspicion, Su Qin greeted Li Yuanting at the door and then left. However, Li Yuanting did not pick up the cup of tea, but looked at Wei Hong impatiently. "Tell me, what is the specific problem? I still have a furnace of elixirs to refine later. It's like this. I just broke through to the 6th level of key training some time ago, but after the breakthrough, I found that my spiritual power suddenly became obscure. Not only is it not running smoothly, but it also becomes much slower when mobilizing spiritual power. I don't know what caused this. Is there a solution? Please help me, fellow Taoist Li." Wei Hong did not dare to neglect it, and hurriedly told all his problems in one breath. Then he looked at Li Yuanting with hope. But after listening to Wei Hong's description, Li Yuanting looked at Wei Hong with a flash of disdain in his eyes, and then sneered, "Spiritual power is obscure and running slowly? This is clearly caused by swallowing a large number of pills, resulting in excessive accumulation of pill poison. Li Yuanting is worthy of being an outer disciple of Qingayan sect." He immediately revealed the real cause of Wei Hong's own problems. Wei Hong was a little puzzled by Li Yuanting's look, and then heard him reveal the reason. His body was shocked, and all his previous guesses were confirmed. "Daoyali is really amazing. I wonder if there is a way to remove this pill poison." Wei Hong hurriedly asked for a solution. At this moment, Wei Hong had more confidence in Daoyali, who he had spent a lot of contribution points to find, and he was also secretly relieved, knowing that his contribution points should not be wasted. Chapter 465, Pointing Out a Way. Li Yuanting then picked up the teacup and drank slowly. Facing Wei Hong's hopeful look, he replied calmly, "Of course there is, and there is more than one." "Oh? Fellow Taoist Li, please teach me." Wei Hong's eyes lit up and he immediately made a gesture of asking for advice. Li Yuanting looked at Wei Hong and said, "In fact, although your symptoms are not common, they are not rare in Qingayan sect. It's all because you swallow too many pills, which cause the spiritual power to be contaminated by pill poison. In fact, there are 3 ways to get rid of pill poison as far as I know. First, control the frequency of swallowing, and then meditate every day to purify. Second, take special pills, such as Qingling pills and other pills that can purify spiritual power, which can also get rid of pill poison. Third, practice special exercises and use the characteristics of the exercises to purify spiritual power. Apart from these 3 methods, I can't think of any better solutions." After saying that, Li Yuanting's expression was indifferent, and the look he gave Wei Hong seemed to become more inexplicable, as if he was faintly filled with a trace of disdain and indifference. Wei Hong no longer cared about Li Yuanting's eyes. After listening to the 3 solutions, he immediately pondered secretly, and his brows were deeply furrowed. Li Yuanting seemed to understand Wei Hong's thoughts and did not interrupt him. After a long while, Wei Hong continued to ask Li Yuanting for advice. Please enlighten me, fellow Taoist Li, what are the differences between these three methods? If I want to use these three methods to solve the problem, how should I prepare? Or what conditions are needed? He knew very well that there was a method, but whether it could be used or whether it was suitable for him was another matter, so he had to ask for clarification. And only by knowing the differences between the three methods and the conditions required, he could make a better choice. Li Yuanting didn't mean to hide it. He said directly, of course there is a difference, and the difference is not small. The first method of purification by meditation is a slow method that takes a long time to complete. Especially since fellow Taoist Lin is only at the 6th level of key training now, I think it will take at least 5 years and you must persist in meditation every day to complete it. In addition, during the period when the spiritual power is completely purified, fellow Taoist Lin had better not take any elixirs to improve your cultivation. At the same time, your cultivation will not be improved for the time being. When Li Yuanting finished talking about the first solution, Wei Hong's face became ugly. At the same time, this method of purifying spiritual power by meditation was subconsciously ruled out by him first. It took him 5 years to meditate and purify spiritual power, and he had to persist every day. During this period, he could not take elixirs to practice, and even his cultivation could not be improved. This was completely unacceptable to Wei Hong. Li Yuanting seemed to see through Wei Hong's thoughts. He smiled faintly and said, "Friend Lin, in fact, this method is the most suitable for you and it is also the safest method. I advise you not to be too ambitious and just meditate and purify yourself every day. The conditions required for the remaining two methods are more stringent and they are not something you can achieve." Wei Hong frowned secretly. Li Yuanting seemed to be persuading him with good intentions, but there seemed to be a hint of contempt in his words, which made him feel very uncomfortable. However, now that he had a request to make, he could only suppress his unhappy mood, and then asked sincerely, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Li, I still want to know how to do the remaining two methods specifically, and then I will consider it accordingly." Li Yuanting did not seem to expect Wei Hong to be so ignorant and even ignored his kind advice, so he sneered, "Since fellow Taoist Lin wants to know, Li will naturally not fail to tell you. The second method of swallowing purification pills is actually to buy or refine pills with special effects to purify spiritual power, such as kindling pills and purification pills. You are not afraid to tell fellow Taoist Lin the truth. Kindling pills are first-grade mid-grade pills, and purification pills are first-grade top-grade pills. Although these two pills can be bought outside, the prices are. If fellow Taoist Lin is wealthy, you can give it a try." Having said that, Li Yuanting deliberately glanced at Wei Hong, wanting to see if he was really wealthy, but found that Wei Hong had a blank expression. "Dao Ali, can't you make the kindling pill yourself?" Wei Hong frowned and asked. "Of course you can." Li Yuanting nodded calmly, and then said, "But if you want to make the kindling pill, you need at least a first-class middle-grade alchemist to make it. If Dao Lin has no experience in alchemy, I'm afraid it will take 5 or 6 years for him to be promoted to first-class middle-grade alchemist." In Li Yuanting's view, Wei Hong, who has no experience in alchemy, wants to make the kindling pill himself. It is not only a pipe dream, but it also requires countless resources and a lot of practice to complete it. With this time and a lot of resources invested, it is better to buy it directly. Wei Hong obviously thought of this, and his brows never relaxed. Regardless of what Wei Hong thought, Li Yuanting continued, "The last method is to practice special skills and use them to increase spiritual power. Fellow Taoist Lin, don't hold out hope for this method. If you still have a glimmer of hope in refining the light spirit pill, it's best not to think about practicing special skills. With your status, you still can't achieve it." Li Yuanting was not trying to persuade him, but his expression was as if he was telling a fact. Wei Hong was silent. He naturally understood what Li Yuanting meant. It was nothing more than that this kind of special skills were only available in large sects. Ordinary casual cultivators like them didn't even have the qualifications and ways to contact them, so this method was not an option. He had already guessed about these things, but when the facts really came out of Li Yuanting's mouth, Wei Hong still found it a little hard to accept. No wonder Li Yuanting, an outer disciple of Qingyuan sect, said that only the first method was the most suitable and the safest for him. In this world of immortal cultivation, almost all resources are monopolized by the major sects. It is too difficult for ordinary independent cultivators to stand out. No wonder the disciples of the major sects don't take independent cultivators seriously at all, because ordinary independent cultivators are indeed difficult to compete with the disciples of the sects. After once again examining the cruelty and helplessness of the world of immortal cultivation, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh in his heart. At this moment, he finally understood why Li Yuanting looked at him with contempt and disdain. For ordinary independent cultivators, they have long been accustomed to being high above them. If Wei Hong hadn't given a large number of contribution points as a reward, Li Yuanting probably wouldn't even be interested in meeting him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466 The Solution. The reception room suddenly became quiet. Wei Hong remained silent, and no one knew what he was thinking. Li Yuanting drank his tea calmly, without even looking at Wei Hong. He was paid for his work, and being able to explain things so carefully to Wei Hong was well worth the price. It was just as Wei Hong thought. If it weren't for that large amount of contribution points, he would probably think it was a waste of time to even meet Wei Hong, and he would definitely not show up here. After a long while, Wei Hong raised his head and looked at Li Yuanting, and asked unwillingly, "Fellow Taoist Li, is there no other way besides these three methods? Do I really have to rely on meditation to purify my spiritual power? And it will take more than 5 years. If there were other options, who would want to choose the first solution?" Li Yuanting understood Wei Hong's thoughts, but he coldly eyed him. "No, there are only these three ways. Even if there are, the price is not something you can afford." He paused, then looked at Wei Hong with a slightly pitying look. "Fellow Taoist Lin, I am not afraid to tell you the truth. I have seen many cases like yours. You are all too eager for quick success and are unwilling to meditate and practice hard. Instead, you rely on the power of elixirs to push your cultivation up. In this way, the early stage will naturally improve quickly, but it will be miserable in the later stage. Just like you now, the elixir poison has polluted your spiritual power. It is extremely difficult to eliminate the elixir poison. And your cultivation is very likely to reach this stage." Li Yuanting knew how to say the last sentence in a more tactful way. What is very likely to reach this stage? It is clearly saying that Wei Hong is already useless. In his situation, it is impossible for him to break through to the late stage of key training. This is naturally a great sorrow for a cultivator, so Li Yuanting looked at Wei Hong with such a pitying look. "What? My cultivation can't be improved anymore?" Wei Hong was naturally shocked. After a while, he asked anxiously, "Isn't it impossible? Fellow Taoist Li, can't I get rid of the poison? How can I stop here? It's basically a foregone conclusion." Li Yuanting shook his head and sighed. "Your foundation has been destroyed. I'm afraid it will be difficult to achieve greater success in this life, unless you can find a way to completely solve the poison." The implication is that Wei Hong has no hope. Even if he gets rid of the poison, it will be difficult for him to achieve much. Faced with such a cruel reality, Wei Hong was silent again. Even though he didn't agree with or accept Li Yuanting's judgment, he still felt uncomfortable in his heart. If it was an ordinary casual cultivator, Li Yuanting might really be right. But he has a system and vitality points to help him. It is absolutely impossible for him to stop completely with just some poison. Wei Hong firmly believes this. However, this was something that absolutely could not be revealed, so Wei Hong was too lazy to argue with Li Yuanting. He raised his head expressionlessly, as if he had accepted his fate, and bowed to Li Yuanting and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Li, for clearing up my doubts. I know what to choose now. Okay, in that case, I'll take my leave now." Seeing that the transaction had been completed, Li Yuanting didn't want to stay any longer, so he stood up and nodded to Wei Hong, and then left without hesitation. As for Wei Hong, he went to the talisman painting room to complete today's task, then informed Su Qin and returned to his residence. After returning to the bedroom and sitting cross-legged, Wei Hong's expression seemed to come alive again. "Haha, you said I'm useless? My cultivation will stop here." A mocking sound appeared on Wei Hong's lips, and he couldn't help but sneered secretly. He is just a cultivator at the 8th level of key training, but he is so arrogant. People who don't know him would think he is a foundation-building cultivator. Just based on a little poison, he decided my second half of life? It's ridiculous. Wei Hong was very dissatisfied with Li Yuanting's attitude and judgment. However, he didn't say much in person, and even deliberately acted very unwilling, as if he had accepted Li Yuanting's statement. In fact, it was mainly to keep a low profile. After suppressing all the distracting thoughts in his mind, Wei Hong began to carefully consider the information and 3 methods revealed by Li Yuanting. As Li Yuanting said, unless we find a giant and stage cultivator to help, there are only 3 options. But the first one is too slow. It will take more than 5 years. I absolutely cannot accept this. I have to spend 5 years meditating to purify my spiritual power, and my cultivation has not improved at all. It's too slow. This is absolutely not an option. Wei Hong first ruled out the first option, because relying solely on meditation to purify spiritual power not only has a poor effect, but also takes too long. He cannot accept it. The second is to swallow special pills, such as kindling pills, which can purify spiritual power. This sounds good. But from what Li Yuanting said, it seems that this type of pill is very expensive, and I don't know the specific price. Then let's wait and see. Go to the treasure pavilion tomorrow to ask about the price before making a decision. Wei Hong put the second method aside again, and planned to go to the treasure pavilion later to ask about the price of the kindling pill before making a decision. So, he thought of a third method. The third method is to practice special skills to purify the spiritual power. According to Li Yuanting, this special skill is absolutely impossible to find outside, and even if I find it, I definitely can't afford it. The third method doesn't seem to work either. There is no way to find that special skill. It is all controlled by the major sects. Alice, if I can buy a special skill to purify spiritual power, this choice is definitely the most suitable for me. With a large number of vitality points, no matter what skill he has, he can quickly max it out to the limit, and he doesn't have to worry about the problem of cultivation. Unfortunately, he can't find it. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that all 3 methods are completely inappropriate. No wonder Li Yuanting's sect disciples suggested that I choose the first one. If it is an ordinary cultivator, there is really no choice. Wei Hong smiled bitterly and shook his head, but he didn't give up. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how much it costs, the problem of the elixir must be solved, otherwise he may really stop here, as Li Yuanting said, which is not the result Wei Hong wants to see. He has just started in the world of cultivating immortals, and there are countless beautiful scenes waiting for him in the future. Moreover, with the help of the system, a little bit of pill poison should not be a stumbling block to his progress. Tomorrow I will go to the treasure pavilion to ask about the price of the kindling pill. If it doesn't work, I can just make the pill myself. A trace of determination flashed across Wei Hong's face. Chapter 467 Purification Pill. The next day. After getting up in the morning, Wei Hong first went to the talisman workshop. After staying in the talisman workshop for a whole morning, he left leisurely. Then he went straight to the treasure pavilion to ask about the price of the kindling pill. "Senior, please come in." Seeing Wei Hong coming, a servant waiting at the door immediately greeted him warmly. Wei Hong nodded and walked into the very familiar treasure pavilion. The servant led the way in front and asked enthusiastically, "Senior, do you want to buy or sell something? Do you have kindling pill and purification pill for sale in your treasure pavilion? If you do, show them to me." Wei Hong ordered directly. "Kindling pill and purification pill." The servant's eyes lit up immediately, and he greeted enthusiastically, "Yes, yes, please wait a moment, I'll get them right away." Obviously, this servant should know the price of these 2 pills. Wei Hong waited for a while, and the servant came over with a jade plate. "Please look, sir." The servant put down the jade plate and introduced to Wei Hong, "The one on the left is the light spirit pill, and the one on the right is the purification pill." 2 different jade bottles were placed in front of Wei Hong. He did not pick them up, but stood there and looked at them carefully. He found that the jade bottle on the left was slightly lower, and the bottle belly was oval, while the jade bottle on the right was higher, and the bottle body and bottle mouth were the same, and the overall appearance was slender and tall. Wei Hong took a look and asked, "What's the price?" The servant first glanced at Wei Hong, and then smiled and replied, "Light spirit pill is 500 spirit stones per bottle, and purification pill is 800 spirit stones per bottle." This price made Wei Hong take a deep breath in his heart, and any idea of buying was scared away by this price. Just a first-level middle-grade light spirit pill costs 500 spirit stones per bottle, which is like robbing money. Even though Wei Hong had prepared himself mentally in advance, he was still shocked by the high price. 500? 800. Wei muttered softly. More than 5 times, I can't afford it at all. He sighed secretly in his heart. Compared with the normal price of elixirs, the price of this kindling pill is 5 or 6 times more expensive. This is completely beyond Wei Hong's ability to afford at this stage. If he only buys one bottle, he can still buy it with gritted teeth, but it goes without saying that just one bottle of kindling pill is definitely not enough. In this case, just buying kindling pill may cost thousands of spirit stones. How can Wei Hong accept this? He shook his head and said, "It's too expensive. Do you have the recipe for kindling pill?" "Yes, I have the recipe too. Do you want to see it?" The servant's face did not change at all, and he was still so enthusiastic. "Show it to me. I'll buy it if the price is right." Wei Hong nodded. The servant hurriedly agreed, and then quickly placed a jade slip with a recipe of kindling pill in front of Wei Hong. "Please have a look at this, my guest. This is the recipe for the light spirit pill. However, there is a restriction in our treasure pavilion, so you can only view the first part of the content. Please remember not to force it to view it." The servant picked up the jade slit and handed it to Wei Hong, reminding him carefully. "Of course I can save it." Wei Hong nodded to show that he understood, then picked up the jade slip and put it on his forehead. After a while, he put down the jade slip and asked, "How much does this light spirit pill recipe cost?" 200 spirit stones. "Okay, I'll take it." Wei Hong chose the recipe instead of the pill without hesitation. Just now, deep in his heart, he had obviously made a decision. Originally, he wanted to see the price of the light spirit pill before making a decision. If it wasn't too expensive, he would be willing to pay this money to solve the problem of pill poison. After all, compared with his own cultivation foundation, a few spirit stones are nothing. He can also earn hundreds of spirit stones every month now. But now that he knows that the light spirit pill costs 500 spirit stones per bottle, he decisively gave up the idea of buying the finished pill. So in that short time just now, Wei Hong had already decided to make his own elixir. This was definitely the most suitable method for him, and the most cost-effective method. Although the recipe for the light spirit pill was not cheap, and the various materials needed for subsequent alchemy would not be few, it was still much more affordable than the finished elixir sold by the treasure pavilion. Moreover, after Wei Hong learned to make the light spirit pill himself, he could also make the elixir and sell it for money, which was a win-win situation. With tens of thousands of vitality points he could get every month, it was no problem to max out the alchemy skills. The rest was to continue to strengthen practice, and with the alchemy skills that were maxed out to the limit, he could absorb and digest all the alchemy experience given by the system as much as possible, and finally turn it into his own experience and achievements. All these things just now were all thought about in Wei Hong's mind in a flash, and he decided on it. He took out 200 spirit stones and handed them to the servant, then picked up the jade slip that had been lifted from the ban and turned to leave the treasure pavilion. After walking out of the gate of the treasure pavilion, Wei Hong exhaled lightly and sighed secretly. If it were an ordinary casual cultivator, he might really have to rely on daily meditation to purify his spiritual power. Without strength and spiritual stones, it would be difficult to develop in this world of immortal cultivation. The price of the light spirit pill alone is enough to turn into a mountain, completely stopping most cultivators from moving forward. You know, that's 500 spiritual stones. For an ordinary cultivator in the middle stage of key training, it's already very good to save hundreds of spiritual stones a year. But if you want to buy a bottle of light spirit pill, you need to save it for 5 years. One bottle is far from enough, so it is absolutely impossible to achieve the goal without 20 to 30 years of accumulation. But if this cultivator has not improved his cultivation for 20 to 30 years, then he's basically useless. Fortunately, I now have a small foundation, which can support my own alchemy needs. Wei Hong sighed in his heart as he walked towards his residence. Now that the decision has been made, it is still necessary to plan carefully what to do next. Alice, I don't know how long it will take for the strange fog to completely disappear. Wei Hong couldn't help but think of the strange fog outside. He didn't know whether it was because the strange fog was too terrifying or because King Ai Insect didn't really make any effort, so the strange fog has not been eliminated until now. There are even a lot of casualties every month, and large numbers of low-level scattered cultivators are disappearing. Although Wei Hong has not been affected for the time being, he is still worried, fearing that the strange fog will spread and destroy his current stable and satisfying life. Chapter 468 Alchemy Furnace. Wei Hong's worries seem to have slowly become a reality. After a few months, the strange fog was not eliminated or dispelled, but it stubbornly withstood the offensive of Qinghai sect and was still spreading quietly. Therefore, the crisis of the strange fog not only did not end, but became more and more serious. This is because too many key training cultivators were killed or injured in a few months, so that the offensive to block the strange fog was constantly declining. However, the strangeness and terror were difficult for many key training cultivators to resist, especially the strange invisible body and soul-snatching sound, which caused a large number of casualties to those key training cultivators, so the manpower could not be replenished slowly. The most important thing is that the strange fog seemed to be able to breed strangeness infinitely. One wave after another, endless. Under such circumstances, the strange fog continued to spread and expand. In this way, the crisis caused by the strange fog became more and more serious. Even some cultivators did not want to go out to fight anymore. If it were not for the mandatory requirements of Qinghai sect, they would have returned to the market long ago, and they would not fight for it. After all, he went there for the generous reward from Qinghai sect, but now it seems that his life is about to be lost. What's the point of a generous reward? Even if he was directly rewarded with a foundation-building pill, it would not help. However, Qinghai sect did not seem to have any reaction. They just let Lu Junmin and other 10 foundation-building monks continue to clear the strange fog, and ignored the others, which made many monks feel quite surprised. However, these things have nothing to do with Wei Hong at present. He only needs to complete the daily task of drawing talismans. After returning to his residence from the treasure pavilion, he went directly to the bed in the bedroom and sat cross-legged. Snap! He gently put the jade slip with the recipe of kindling pill on the center of his forehead, and then closed his eyes and carefully examined it. After about half an incense stick of time, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes and put the jade slip down. He began to recite the materials needed to refine the light spirit pill: purple-leafed blue grass, cheyenne flower, jade marrow, flame mushroom, ice thorn grass. The light spirit pill recipe records a total of 12 materials, which means that if Wei Hong wants to refine the pill, he must buy all 12 materials before he can start. In addition to the material ratio, the recipe also records in detail the steps and corresponding heat of refining the light spirit pill, as well as the final pill collection method, etc., which is very detailed. After reading it, Wei Hong was moved. No wonder this recipe is worth 200 spirit stones. After reading it, the system immediately sent a prompt. Ling. The first level intermediate pill recipe light spirit pill was successfully included. The current proficiency is 1/100. Very good, let's max out the realm first. Wei Hong smiled slightly and immediately added vitality points to the light spirit pill recipe. Ling. Light spirit pill proficiency plus 100. Congratulations on breaking through to the mastery realm. The current proficiency is 1/300. Ling. Light spirit pill, proficiency plus 300. Congratulations on breaking through to the minor success realm. Current proficiency is 1/500. Ling. Light spirit pill, proficiency plus 500. Congratulations on breaking through to the major success realm. Current proficiency is 1/800. After spending thousands of vitality points, the light spirit pill was directly maxed out to the limit. At this moment, a lot of experience and techniques about refining the light spirit pill emerged in Wei Hong's mind. Wei Hong closed his eyes again, absorbed and digested all these experiences and techniques. After an incense stick, he slowly opened his eyes. Yes, I am already very familiar with the experience and alchemy techniques. What I lack now is the actual operation. Wei Hong began to think in his mind at this time. In order to refine the elixir, in addition to the elixir formula and the preparation of various materials, you must also have an elixir furnace, and you must have ground fire to start refining the elixir. These things are indispensable. The elixir furnace is easy to say. I will go to the market to exchange for one later. The 12 kinds of materials required to refine the kindling pill are not rare. They should be available in the market or the treasure pavilion. But the ground fire required for refining the elixir is a problem. Where can I find it? As far as Wei Hong knows, in order to refine the elixir formula, materials, elixir furnace and elixir fire are indispensable. No matter which one is missing, it is impossible to refine the elixir. Among them, the elixir fire is the most particular, and there is a distinction between heaven, earth and man. The so-called heavenly fire is all kinds of strange flames between heaven and earth, and they are flames that can be collected by cultivators for their own use, such as thunder fire, which are collectively called heavenly fire. The underground fire is the fire that emerges from underground. It usually exists in volcanoes or underground fire veins. It is let out by powerful cultivators, and then restrictions are set for it to control the underground fire. Using underground fire to refine pills is the most common method used by low-level cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation, and it is also the type of pill fire with the lowest threshold for use. As for the last human fire, it actually refers to the golden elixir fire and the Yuan fire contained in the bodies of high-level cultivators above the Jinden stage. As long as the cultivators who have reached the Jinden stage or above, they basically use their own Jinden fire or Yuan fire to refine pills, which is simple and convenient, and very easy to control. But for Wei Hong now, it is an unattainable realm. Therefore, using underground fire to refine pills became his only choice. If it doesn't work, go to the alchemy workshop and rent an alchemy room. It is said that they have alchemy rooms for rent, and each alchemy room is equipped with underground fire, which completely meets my requirements. Wei Hong thought about it and found that only the alchemy workshop in the market could meet his alchemy needs. Because there is a medium-sized fire vein inside the alchemy workshop, which was personally led by a Jinden stage elder of Qingyuan sect, and then Qingyuan sect was responsible for arranging the restrictions, so that he can control the underground fire to make alchemy with peace of mind. Among them, the alchemy workshop also rents out alchemy rooms. As for the price, Wei Hong needs to go and ask in person. If it is not expensive, then he doesn't need to hesitate anymore, just choose an alchemy room, and it will be much easier to make alchemy in the future. In that case, let's go to the alchemy workshop tomorrow to ask how much it costs to rent an alchemy room. In addition, we need to buy an alchemy furnace and alchemy materials, and we need to prepare more alchemy materials. It is impossible to make an elixir successfully in one try in the early stage. Wei Hong knew that although he had maxed out the light spirit pill to the limit and was very proficient in the experience and various techniques of refining the light spirit pill, these were all theoretical knowledge. To apply them in practice, he needed to practice more to turn the knowledge in his mind into his own experience. Preparing more materials means that he has anticipated that he may have to fail many times before he can succeed. Chapter 469, Spiritual Herbs, Buying and Selling. Dao, how much do you sell this purple-leafed blue flower for? Wei Hong squatted in front of a material stall and asked about the price. This stall not only had more than 10 kinds of spiritual flowers and herbs, but also some spiritual minerals, animal bones, crystal stones and other materials. The purple-leafed blue flower that Wei Hong wanted to buy was one of them, and there were 3 of them. So he stopped and asked the price directly. The old man with a goatee rolled his eyes and chuckled and replied, "If Dao wants it, 3 spiritual stones per plant will do." Wei Hong's mouth shone slightly, and he replied without thinking, 5 spiritual stones per plant. If I can sell it, I will buy 3 plants at a time. If I can't sell it, forget it. Wei Hong didn't fall for the old man's attempt to fool him. He had already inquired about the prices of various materials, and it would be wrong to think that he knew nothing. The old man with the goat beard looked anxious, and immediately shook his head and said, 5 spirit stones for 3 plants? That won't do, it's too low, Taoist friend, please add more. He looked shrewd, and when he said 5 spirit stones for 3 purple-leaf blue flowers, it was as if he was cutting meat. Most people would be embarrassed to bargain down after seeing this, and might even be fooled by the old man with the goat beard. But he didn't expect Wei Hong to be unwilling to say another word, and stood up and prepared to leave. Hey, Taoist friend, don't be in a hurry to leave, the price is negotiable. The old man with the goat beard was anxious at this time. Seeing that Wei Hong had no intention of turning around, he immediately knew that he had met an expert, so he immediately waved to Wei Hong and shouted, 5 spirit stones for 3 plants, that's 5 spirit stones, Taoist friend, don't leave, I'll sell it to you. Wei Hong then slowly stopped and squatted in front of the stall again. Please help me pack it up, this is 5 spirit stones. Wei Hong took out the spirit stones and handed them to the old man. A bitter smile appeared on the shrewd face of the old man with the goat beard, but he still swiftly wrapped up the 3 purple-leafed blue flowers and handed them to Wei Hong. Wei Hong thanked him, then put the purple-leafed blue flowers into his storage bag and turned to leave. Today, he came to this market, not only to buy the 12 materials needed to refine the light spirit pill, but also to purchase an alchemy furnace, and to rent an alchemy room at the alchemy workshop. His schedule was quite full. These 3 purple-leaf orchids were the 3rd alchemy material he bought. Among the 12 materials needed to refine the light spirit pill, they were basically first-grade medium-quality spiritual flowers and herbs, and the price was between 1 and 2 spiritual stones, which made Wei Hong completely acceptable. But overall, refining a furnace of light spirit pill would cost at least 18 spiritual stones. If there was an error in any link during the refining process or the temperature was not properly controlled, then a furnace of materials worth more than 10 or 20 spiritual stones would be wasted. If 7 or 8 furnaces were refined in a day, at least hundreds of spiritual stones would be consumed. Such a huge investment and high resource consumption would be too much for ordinary casual cultivators. Even Wei Hong himself would never start to learn alchemy at this time if he did not have the help of vitality points. No wonder everyone says that among the 4 arts of cultivating immortals, alchemy is the most expensive and the most difficult to learn. It seems to be true. Without the support of a sect or a family, how can ordinary people afford the various expenses and investments of alchemy? When Wei Hong thought about the fact that he would spend more than 10 or 20 spirit stones to refine a furnace of elixirs, he could not help but sigh with emotion. Among the 4 arts of cultivating immortals, alchemy and refining are the ones he is not willing to touch for the time being. There is only one reason, that is, the resources required to invest and consume are too large. If the light spirit pill was not a must-have pill to solve the pill poison in his body, he would not learn to refine pills at this time. In the next hour or so, Wei Hong bought all the other alchemy materials one by one. After buying everything, he calculated that it would probably support him to refine 8 furnaces of pills. As for after all the materials of the 8 furnaces are consumed, he will naturally continue to buy until he can really refine the kindling pill. It is impossible to stop in the middle. Damn it, it's a good thing that I have accumulated some savings since I opened the shop, otherwise I might not be able to afford even the materials for alchemy. Looking at the various materials placed in the storage bag, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile bitterly. I don't know how many furnaces I need to refine to succeed. Shaking his head, he suppressed the distracting thoughts in his mind and walked to another stall. It was a stall selling elixirs and alchemy furnaces. The stall owner was a middle-aged man who looked a little thin and his face was not healthy. Even before he walked to the front of the stall, Wei Hong had heard the stall owner cough several times. My fellow Taoist, how much is this alchemy furnace? Walking to the front of the stall, Wei Hong politely asked the price. On this stall, there were more than 10 or 20 jade bottles of various elixirs, but there was only one elixir furnace, which looked quite simple and quaint. Wei Hong could even faintly smell a unique medicinal fragrance. It was obvious that this elixir furnace must have been used for a long time. I don't know why the stall owner would sell it. Hearing someone asking the price, the thin middle-aged stall owner immediately looked up at Wei Hong, then smiled slightly and said, "Thank you for your courtesy, fellow Taoist. This elixir furnace was originally used by Zheng. Although it is a first-level middle-grade elixir furnace, Zheng has been using it to refine elixirs for more than 10 years. This elixir furnace is definitely not inferior to some first-level top-grade elixir furnaces. If you want it, 120 spirit stones will do." The price given by the thin middle-aged stall owner was actually not too high, only more than 10 spirit stones higher than the market price. Wei Hong frowned slightly upon hearing this. He looked at the middle-aged stall owner and asked, "Oh? Since it is a beloved item that you have used for many years, why are you selling it?" "Haha, to be honest, my foundation is damaged due to some reasons, and I am a little exhausted from refining pills." A trace of misery flashed across the face of the middle-aged stall owner, and then he smiled bitterly and replied, "I have no choice but to sell this pill furnace, hoping to save some spirit stones to see if I can buy pills to cure my injuries." As he said this, the thin middle-aged stall owner covered his mouth with his hand and coughed twice again. Wei Hong was silent for a while, and his face became a little heavier. In fact, he already believed it in his heart, because he could feel that the middle-aged stall owner was indeed injured. However, whether what the middle-aged stall owner said was true or false was not important. What was important was the quality of the pill furnace and whether it met his requirements. So Wei Hong asked softly to the middle-aged stall owner, "Dao, can I take a look at this alchemy furnace?" Wow, it's easy. The middle-aged stall owner smiled and stretched out his hand to gesture. Chapter 470 Alchemy Room, Start the Furnace. Wei Hong did not rush to start, but observed it carefully first. The alchemy furnace placed in the center of the stall was bronze in color, with 3 legs and 2 ears. There was a round lid on the top and a beast-shaped handle on the lid. The whole alchemy furnace was about 4 feet high, and one person could just hug it. The ears on both sides were made into the shape of dragon heads, which were spitting flames downwards, which looked quite good. The body of the furnace was carved with exquisite patterns and designs, and there were some hollow carvings on both sides. There was also a round hole the size of a sea bowl in front and behind the body of the furnace, which should be used to put in materials and observe the internal situation of the alchemy furnace. After watching for a long time, Wei Hong slowly walked forward, gently stroking the alchemy furnace with both hands, and carefully checking every corner of the alchemy furnace. The thin middle-aged stall owner did not care about Wei Hong's actions. Instead, he waited calmly on the side without any impatience. After half an incense stick, Wei Hong let go of the furnace, then turned to look at the middle-aged stall owner and said directly, "Okay, just 120 spirit stones, I want this furnace." He had personally checked the furnace and confirmed that the quality was fine. Moreover, after approaching the furnace, the faint medicinal fragrance became clearer, which was definitely a sign of the furnace being used for many years. Therefore, he decided to take the furnace. The middle-aged stall owner did not seem surprised. He nodded and smiled. "Okay, then I would like to thank you, fellow Taoist. You are polite. Here are 120 spirit stones, count them." Wei Hong pointed out 120 spirit stones and handed them to the middle-aged stall owner. "Yes, just right." The middle-aged stall owner took a look and put them directly into his storage bag. Wei Hong also put the furnace directly into his storage bag, bowed to the middle-aged stall owner and left. Then, he went straight to the alchemy workshop. Arriving in front of the alchemy workshop, he didn't wait for the guard at the door to ask, but bowed and asked, "Fellow Taoist, I am Wei Hong. I want to rent an alchemy room in the alchemy workshop. Who should I find?" Hearing that he was here to rent an alchemy room, the 2 guards relaxed, and then the guard on the left replied, "You need to find our steward to rent an alchemy room. Go straight after you go in and you will see a small courtyard with a plaque of Ru Hall. Our steward is inside." "Thank you." Wei Hong clasped his fists and walked straight into the alchemy workshop. Following the instructions of the guard, he quickly found Ru Hall, where the steward was. "Senior, I am Wei Hong. I want to rent an alchemy room, may I ask?" When he saw the steward of the alchemy workshop, Wei Hong directly stated his purpose. The manager of the alchemy workshop was a middle-aged monk with a long beard. He looked up at Wei Hong and then said calmly, "Want to rent the alchemy room?" "Of course, 10 spirit stones a month." The alchemy workshop rented out the alchemy room to the public, so they naturally welcomed monks like Wei Hong who came to rent the alchemy room. 10 spirit stones a month. Wei Hong was stunned for a while, and immediately decided, "Okay, then I will rent it for 3 months first." After that, he took out 30 spirit stones and handed them to the manager in front of him. The manager took the spirit stones away with a flick of his hand, and then threw a token to Wei Hong, and warned, "This is the token of the alchemy room. It will be taken back after the expiration. If you need to renew the lease, you must pay in advance." "Thank you, manager, I understand." Wei Hong nodded. "Well, go ahead, I'll have someone take you there." The manager waved his hand, called a servant and asked him to take Wei Hong to the alchemy room. Soon, under the guidance of the servant, Wei Hong came to the back of the alchemy workshop, and then stood in front of a stone chamber with "No. Ding 6, written on it. This stone chamber is the alchemy room you rented. You can enter and exit by yourself with a token in your hand. The ground fire inside also needs a token to activate. Please be sure to keep it. If you don't understand anything, you can call me at any time. If there is nothing else, I will go down first." After sending Wei Hong to the destination, the servant politely explained a few words to Wei Hong before leaving. Wei Hong took the token in his hand and opened the formation restriction in front of the stone chamber, then pushed open the stone door and walked in. After entering the stone chamber, the 4 walls were all made of blue-gray boulders. The area of the whole stone chamber was not large, about 20 square meters. There were mysterious patterns engraved on the 4 stone walls. After entering the stone chamber, you can't hear any movement outside at all. It seems that the sound insulation effect is very good. It is very likely that it is the effect of the patterns on the stone walls. Wei Hong thought about it carefully and understood. If the sound insulation of the alchemy room is not good, then who would come here to make alchemy? Would that be stupid? You know, the most taboo thing when making alchemy is to be disturbed by others or disturbed by some loud noises. Imagine that you are concentrating on making alchemy, and suddenly a noise affects your control of the fire. Isn't it easy to ruin the elixir? Therefore, every alchemy room should have such sound insulation, which is also the most basic. In the center of this alchemy room, there is a ground fire mouth. The ground fire mouth is built into a circular hole. The hole is now covered by a layer of black rock, and a circle of refractory materials is laid around the ground fire mouth. About 10 feet away from the ground fire mouth, there stands a stone pillar more than 3 feet high and 2 feet in diameter. A control magic tool is inlaid on the top of the stone pillar, and there is a flat groove next to the magic tool. Next to the stone pillar, there is a wooden rack slightly higher than the stone pillar. The wooden rack has 4 layers. It seems to be used to place alchemy materials, and the wooden rack can be moved. There is also a square stone table in front of the left stone wall, and a medium-sized ash stove in front of the right stone wall. In addition, running water and various tools are available. After carefully looking at the entire alchemy room, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh. It is worthy of being an alchemy room worth 10 spirit stones a month. It is really complete. These 10 spirit stones are worth spending. He did not start to make the alchemy right away, but looked around in the alchemy room, preparing to roughly understand the functions of all the tools inside first, so as not to make mistakes easily when he doesn't understand anything. After a long time, Wei Hong slowly stopped. Looking at this alchemy room, he has made up his mind. Starting tomorrow, I will draw talismans in the talisman workshop in the morning and come here to make elixirs in the afternoon, and strive to make the kindling pill as soon as possible. It would cost 10 spirit stones to rent this alchemy room for a month. Wouldn't it be a huge waste if it was not used? Therefore, Wei Hong adjusted his schedule. At this stage, drawing talismans and refining elixirs are equally important. You can't lean towards one side, you can only move forward in both directions. Chapter 471 Furnace Explosion, Dangerous. The next day, in the afternoon, Wei Hong came to the rented alchemy room. After entering the alchemy room, he first closed the stone door, and then used the token to activate all the array restrictions to ensure that no one could disturb him. Walking to the wooden rack, he took out all the materials needed to refine the kindling pill and checked them, and then placed them one by one in a convenient position for his use at any time. Then, he took out a bronze alchemy furnace from the storage bag and placed it just above the ground fire mouth, just letting the fire mouth face the bottom of the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was placed steadily, and a faint medicinal fragrance came out. Wei Hong took out the controlled token and inserted it directly into the flat groove left at the top of the stone pillar with a click. The groove was designed for the token, and the token fit perfectly after being inserted. Click, click, click. As the control token was inserted into the groove, the layer of black rock covering the ground fire mouth instantly shrank back to both sides, revealing the real ground fire mouth. It was a cave like a small volcano, with a weak flame swaying gently in the cave mouth, and a warm heat was also emitted. Wei Hong was immediately refreshed, and then he input a trace of spiritual power into the control magic tool at the top of the stone pillar. With his hands pinched and gently urged, the ground fire mouth immediately gushed out a 3-foot-high flame from the bottom. After the flame rose, it began to burn the bottom of the furnace. He did not immediately put the materials into the furnace, but controlled the ground fire to continue to calcine the furnace. And just keep the temperature like this until the furnace was burned slightly red. This step is called warming the furnace. The purpose is to make the furnace reach a suitable temperature before refining the elixir, which is also to make the furnace adapt to the temperature of the ground fire. After warming the furnace, Wei Hong reduced the ground fire slightly. Then he picked up a purple-leafed bluegrass on the top of the wooden frame with his left hand and put it directly into the furnace from the feeding port. From this step on, Wei Hong stared at the alchemy furnace with full concentration. After putting the purple-leafed bluegrass into the alchemy furnace, he controlled the ground fire to increase the temperature. A flame rose instantly, and the orange-red flame completely surrounded the bottom of the alchemy furnace. As the temperature of the ground fire rose, the temperature in the alchemy furnace also rose rapidly, and a wisp of green smoke began to rise from the top of the alchemy furnace. The purple-leafed blue grass inside the alchemy furnace began to wither slowly under the calcination of the ground fire. Wei Hong stared at the alchemy furnace in front of him motionlessly, and his hands steadily controlled the control instrument. He didn't dare to be careless at all, fearing that there would be a slight mistake. He had already been familiar with the process and steps of refining Qingling, and he was even more familiar with the temperature required for various materials and the various changes after calcination. But those were all theoretical knowledge in his mind. If he wanted to turn all that knowledge into experience, he needed to practice step by step. As the purple-leafed blue grass inside the furnace withered, some purple liquid slowly seeped out of its surface. These purple liquids were impurities of the purple-leafed blue grass, which were slowly burned out by the ground fire and then directly evaporated by the high temperature. After the purple-leafed blue grass stopped leaking liquid, a thin white smoke came out of its body, and then the whole purple-leafed blue grass was slowly burned into blue powder, lying quietly in the furnace. Wei Hong's face was happy, knowing that the extraction of the purple-leafed blue grass had been completed, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief in his heart. This first step was finally correct. So he immediately lowered the temperature of the ground fire, and then changed his hands to control the spiritual power to enter the alchemy furnace, and used the spiritual power to wrap the small handful of blue powder, took it out of the alchemy furnace, and then put it into a jade bottle that had been prepared in advance. After the jade bottle was plugged, it was placed on the wooden rack, which was considered to have completed the extraction of one material. Then Wei Hong did not take it lightly and began to put the second material into the alchemy furnace. He gently placed a Cheyenne flower into the alchemy furnace, and at the same time he controlled the ground fire to heat up immediately. At this time, a flame that was even hotter than before directly wrapped around the bottom of the alchemy furnace. The heat resistance of Cheyenne flowers is higher than that of purple-leafed blue grass, so the temperature for refining Cheyenne flowers must be higher. This is the knowledge and experience brought by reaching the limit. If Wei Hong were to explore and refine it himself, he would not know how many times he would fail before he could find the right temperature. The orange-red flame wrapped around most of the alchemy furnace. Wei Hong's face was solemn as he controlled the temperature, constantly burning the Cheyenne flower in the alchemy furnace, his eyes not blinking. After burning for a full cup of tea, the Cheyenne flower slowly oozed out impurities. It was a gray impurity liquid that oozed out from the surface of the Cheyenne flower and was directly evaporated by the high temperature before it drips down. At this moment, the flame that wrapped around most of the alchemy furnace suddenly rose a little. Not good. Wei Hong was shocked, knowing that it was because he failed to control the temperature and raised it a little. He immediately cried out that it was not good and hurried to stabilize the temperature of the earth fire. But it was still too late. The Cheyenne flower in the furnace suddenly turned into a ball of fire and was burned to ashes in an instant, without even a bit of powder left. Alice. After seeing this scene, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh softly. It's really not easy. If you don't pay attention, you can't control the temperature. Fortunately, this failure only wasted a Cheyenne flower. If it failed in the later fusion stage, it would be a waste of materials in the furnace. Wei Hong shook his head, cleared his mind, and then picked up another Cheyenne flower and threw it into the alchemy furnace to continue refining. This time, Wei Hong was even more focused, steadily controlling the temperature of the earth fire, wrapping the Cheyenne flower in it, and then continuously burning and refining. Fortunately, after the previous failure, he did not make any mistakes this time. He soon successfully refined the Cheyenne flower, put it into a jade bottle again and sealed it. Wei Hong exhaled lightly and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Although the high temperature of the earth fire was blocked by the isolation of the prohibition, the temperature in this alchemy room was not low, and Wei Hong had to devote himself to alchemy, so his forehead could not help but sweat. Without time to rest, he immediately put the third material into the alchemy furnace again. Refining is only the first step in refining the Qingling pill. It is not an easy task to just refine more than 10 kinds of materials. After the refining is completed, there are still steps such as fusion, condensation, pill formation and pill collection. These all require Wei Hong to concentrate on them. The slightest mistake will cause the entire furnace of pills to be completely scrapped. Therefore, Wei Hong stays in the alchemy room for a whole afternoon every time. Chapter 472, The Elixir is Out. 7 days later. In the alchemy room. Wei Hong's expression was solemn at this time, and his eyes were fixed on the alchemy furnace 10 feet away. In the alchemy furnace, a ball of green liquid the size of an egg was wrapped in flames, spinning in the furnace, and it would shrink slightly with each rotation. The process now was the fusion stage. Wei Hong pinched his hands and kept controlling the temperature of the flame, sometimes high, sometimes low, and sometimes changing his technique, constantly burning the green liquid. At this time, he picked up the last refined flame mushroom powder, wrapped it with spiritual power and slowly put it into the green liquid, making the green liquid slightly condensed. After putting all the refined materials into the alchemy furnace, he began to change the spell, and the spiritual power did not flow into it. He concentrated on controlling the flames and kept burning the materials being fused, so as to force out the last trace of impurities in those materials and slowly fuse all the materials together. As time went by, the green liquid was slowly shrinking and refining while slowly turning into a solid. Wei Hong's face became more and more solemn, and his hands dared not tremble at all. But for some reason, the half-melted green liquid suddenly accelerated and kept shaking. Seeing this, Wei Hong's face changed, and he hurriedly increased his spiritual power output, and quickly changed the spells with his hands, trying to control the temperature and heat to stabilize the green liquid. Who knew that no matter how he controlled it, the green semi-solid liquid could not stop shaking? Puff! A wisp of green smoke rose in the furnace. The semi-solid liquid that fused all the essences of the materials turned into ashes with a puff. Wei Hong smiled bitterly, stopped pinching his hands, and waved his hands at the same time, directly lowering the temperature of the ground fire. Alice, it still doesn't work. This is the third furnace, and there are still mistakes in the fusion stage. It seems that the heat is still not well controlled. I need to continue practicing. Wei Hong shook his head and sighed. Although he had expected this result, he still felt a little depressed. This was his third time to open the furnace to melt the pill, but all failed without exception. Either the temperature control was not good or the fire was not enough. In short, all three fusions failed. Wei Hong did not continue to refine the elixir immediately, but lowered his head to think. Although the previous refining failed several times, I was able to find the melting point temperature of various materials quickly. Now there are frequent errors in the fusion stage. It seems that the local temperature control is not sophisticated enough. There are a total of 12 materials, and each material has a different heating temperature. The temperature needs to be changed all the time, and it needs to be changed to the appropriate temperature as the elixir rotates. Try again and see if it still works. After Wei Hong carefully summed up the experience of the three failures, he continued to refine the elixir. Half a month later, all the materials Wei Hong bought before have been consumed and a new batch has been purchased, and now they have all been used up. In the past half a month, his proficiency in refining materials has risen sharply. Basically, refining materials will no longer fail, but he frequently makes mistakes in the fusion and condensation stages. Fortunately, after many alchemy practices, his experience in alchemy is also steadily increasing. Although Wei Hong has not yet successfully refined a furnace of kindling pills, he has slowly corrected the mistakes and errors that occurred before. Of course, the large amount of materials consumed in alchemy also cost Wei Hong a lot of spiritual stones. It was okay when refining materials at the beginning, and failure only meant the loss of one material. But when it comes to the fusion stage later, once there is a slight mistake or error, it means that the main furnace of pills will be completely scrapped, and the 12 materials will naturally be wasted. Wei Hong has not yet successfully refined kindling pills. Under such circumstances, the consumption of various alchemy materials can be imagined, which has also reduced his savings a lot. Fortunately, this is still within Wei Hong's acceptable range, and he can continue to support it. The most important thing is that after this period of alchemy practice, he can feel that his experience in refining kindling pills is rapidly improving, and the control of temperature and fire, as well as the transformation of various techniques have all made great progress. Combined with the alchemy knowledge in his mind, Wei Hong believes that refining kindling pills is not far away. 3 months later. For 3 or 4 months, Wei Hong spent his days drawing talismans and refining pills. If the materials were gone, he would go buy some, and then he would repeat the steps of refining materials, fusing materials, and condensing them into shapes. After 3 or 4 months of continuous tempering and practice, Wei Hong's alchemy skills have made a qualitative leap in improvement. One day, Wei Hong came to the alchemy room on time as usual. "Let's get started, it's just the finishing touch." A strange light flashed in Wei Hong's eyes, and then he skillfully opened the earth fire port. After controlling the earth fire to heat the alchemy furnace, he took a deep breath, then picked up the jade bottle on the far left of the wooden shelf, opened the cork and poured out a small handful of blue powder, wrapped it with spiritual power and sent it into the alchemy furnace. After the blue powder entered the alchemy furnace, the earth fire rose suddenly, and a ball of fire ignited in the furnace, wrapping the blue powder in it and burning it continuously. Then Wei Hong picked up the second jade bottle and poured out a ball of green liquid the size of a longan. He pinched his fingers to control the temperature while continuing to use his spiritual power to wrap the liquid and send it into the furnace to blend with the blue powder. At this time, Wei Hong's face was solemn, and he was fully focused on refining the elixir. His eyes were fixed on the furnace without blinking, and he didn't care about anything else. He kept moving, pinching his fingers to control the flames, controlling the temperature and the heat, and at the same time, he kept opening the jade bottles and sending the materials into the furnace one by one. As the 12 refined materials were all wrapped in the flames in the furnace, a ball of green liquid the size of an egg appeared in the furnace. The ball of green liquid was wrapped and calcined by the orange-red flame, and it slowly turned over and over again. With each turn, the ball of green liquid condensed and shrank a little, and the color became a little lighter. Wei Hong had failed many times in this step before, but today he was able to control the temperature very steadily without any mistakes, and smoothly allowed the green liquid to slowly fuse and condense. As time went by, the volume of the green liquid was slowly decreasing, and it was also changing from liquid to semi-solid, and then to solid. During this process, Wei Hong's techniques kept changing, controlling the temperature and temperature perfectly, without the slightest mistake. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473. The elixir is ready, with miraculous effects. Alchemy room. Wei Hong's face was solemn, and his hands kept changing the spells. A ball of orange-red flames in the alchemy furnace rose and condensed, and the temperature was sometimes high and sometimes low. He stared at the inside of the furnace without blinking, not missing any details. At this moment, Wei Hong suddenly shouted in a low voice, "Condition for me." The orange-red flame in the furnace, which was as big as a bowl, suddenly doubled in size and released an extremely high temperature. Under the calcination of this temperature, the fused material wrapped in the flame suddenly condensed into a pill. This pill was no longer in a liquid state, but actually turned into a real pill. Seeing that it was finally condensed into a pill, Wei Hong couldn't help but flash a hint of joy in his eyes. At this point, it can be said that it can basically become a pill. But he still didn't dare to be careless. After taking a deep breath, he changed the spells of his hands again, and at the same time steadily controlled the temperature in the fire. The pill was spinning in the flame, looking very eye-catching. At this time, as the pill was successfully condensed, a faint medicinal fragrance began to emanate from the alchemy furnace. Wei Hong controlled the earth fire to continuously burn the pill that had been condensed into shape, so that the surface of the pill, which originally had some tiny pits, quickly became flat and smooth. The smell of the medicinal fragrance began to slowly become stronger, and Wei Hong took a deep breath and felt refreshed. After burning for an incense stick of time, Wei Hong suddenly shouted, "Open it for me." As the hand gestures changed, the earth fire suddenly surged, and a scorching temperature radiated to the surroundings, and Wei Hong hit the lid of the alchemy furnace with a spiritual power. Bang! The lid of the alchemy furnace was directly moved halfway, and as Wei Hong played the last pill collecting gesture, the pill in the alchemy furnace suddenly emitted a strong medicinal fragrance, and then the whole pill turned into a flame and flew out of the alchemy furnace. Swish! Wei Hong was well prepared. When the pill flew out of the alchemy furnace, it happened to meet the spiritual power he shot out. Under the control of the spiritual power, the pill turned into a flame and was firmly caught, and then Wei Hong took it in his hand. At this time, the flame dissipated, and the whole pill gradually revealed its true appearance. It was a pill the size of a longan, and the whole body was light green. Moreover, this pill did not emit any medicinal fragrance at this time, as if it was all collected in the pill. Looking at the pill in his hand, Wei Hong couldn't help laughing with joy. Haha, it worked, it finally worked. It's worth it that I have been refining pills for many months and spent so many materials. I finally succeeded in refining a furnace of kindling pills. Although this furnace only made one pill, it is the beginning of success. The success rate of pills will definitely increase in the future, haha. Even if this furnace only successfully refined one pill, Wei Hong was already quite satisfied. After the success once, he will have more experience in refining kindling pills, and then he can naturally quickly increase the success rate and refine more kindling pills. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't help laughing. It's not easy. It took 3 or 4 months to finally refine a furnace. This is when the light spirit pill is maxed out to the limit. If it were an ordinary cultivator, it might take several years to barely get started. After so many failures, he finally succeeded once. Restraining the joy in his heart, Wei Hong picked up a jade bottle that had been prepared long ago, gently put the light spirit pill in his hand into the jade bottle, then plugged the wooden stopper, and then put the jade bottle into the storage bag for preservation. Next, he did not continue to refine the pill immediately, but closed his eyes and began to carefully recall the entire process and details of the pill refining just now, absorbing and digesting all these experiences as much as possible. As long as he operates according to the experience and feeling of the pill refining just now, the success rate will definitely increase slowly. That night, after successfully refining a furnace of light spirit pills in the afternoon, Wei Hong stopped refining pills, but turned off the ground fire, left the alchemy room and returned to his residence. After returning to the courtyard, he immediately went to the bedroom and sat cross-legged, and then meditated quietly to achieve the purpose of calming his mind. At the first hour of the night, Wei Hong gently opened his eyes. He reached into his storage bag and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Wei Hong opened the jade bottle and poured out a long-incised light green pill from it. Then he stared at the pill in his hand for a while, raised his head, swallowed the pill directly, and closed his eyes again. At this time, the kindling pill melted in his mouth and turned directly into a warm current into Wei Hong's danshan. Wei Hong hurriedly mobilized his spiritual power and began to refine the kindling pill with all his strength. He wrapped the spiritual power around the warm current transformed by the kindling pill, and then began to circulate it slowly. This is not practicing a technique, so it naturally does not need to be circulated very quickly. Every time it circulates a circle, the warm current transformed by the kindling pill shrinks his circle. At this time, Wei Hong was like a statue, closing his eyes and not moving. Half an hour. 1 hour. 2 hours. It was not until 3 hours later that Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. After exhaling a breath of turbid air, Wei Hong suddenly felt refreshed, and then murmured, "It is worthy of being a kindling pill. Although it is only a first-level medium-grade pill, it is really effective in purifying spiritual power. No wonder a bottle costs 500 spiritual stones." This kind of pill with special effects, which is generally only made by major sects or some big forces, naturally did not disappoint Wei Hong. He finally understood why a first-level medium-grade kindling pill would be sold so expensively. Hey, now it seems that the high price is a good thing. After I get rid of all the poison in the pill, I can sell the refined kindling pill, and then I can get a lot of spiritual stones. Wei Hong thought carefully and laughed softly. Although he only swallowed one kindling pill this time, he could clearly feel that his spiritual power did seem to become a little lighter again, just like a person carrying a heavy object suddenly reduced a little weight. That feeling is very obvious. It's good that it works. It's worth the effort I put into refining it. Wei Hong tapped his knees lightly, and then thought to himself, it is indeed effective, but it requires a lot of kindling pills. I need to continue refining pills and work hard to increase the yield. As long as my success rate in refining kindling pills reaches more than 30%, and the yield rate can reach more than 3 pills on average, maybe within a year, the poison in my body should be completely eliminated. Wei Hong can roughly estimate the time it will take to completely eliminate the poison. He has been looking forward to the day when he can continue to swallow pills to accelerate his cultivation after eliminating the poison. Chapter 474, The Peak of the 6th Level of Key Training. 1 year later, Wei Hong raised his head and swallowed another kindling pill. Then he closed his eyes and continued to refine the medicinal power. At this time, there was an empty jade bottle in front of him. Obviously, the kindling pill he just swallowed should be the last one in the bottle. Refine this kindling pill, and the poison in my body should be completely eliminated. Wei Hong was also thinking about this secretly in his heart, and he kept a calm state of mind and slowly refined the kindling pill. Over the past year, Wei Hong has repeated this thing every once in a while. Since he successfully refined the kindling pill a year ago, he has gradually become proficient in refining the kindling pill. The first is the improvement of the success rate. From the beginning, only 1 out of 10 furnaces could be successfully refined, and now 3 out of 10 furnaces can be successfully refined. and the success rate has directly increased to 30%. The second is the pill yield rate. At first, he could only produce 1 pill per furnace, but as his experience increased, his pill yield rate slowly increased to 2 or 3 pills. Until today, his pill yield rate has been able to stabilize at about 4 pills, which means that for every successful furnace of kindling pill, he can get at least 4 finished pills. In this way, Wei Hong's demand for kindling pill was greatly alleviated. He swallowed a kindling pill every 3 or 4 days, and then used the efficacy of kindling pill to purify the spiritual power in his body. At the same time, when refining the medicinal power of kindling pill, the poison of the pill mixed in the spiritual power was also slowly removed. As the poison of the pill was gradually removed, the spiritual power in Wei Hong's body became more and more smooth and brisk, and slowly there was no longer a sense of stagnation and obscurity, which made him very happy. And today, a year later, Wei Hong can clearly feel that as long as he refines the kindling pill he swallowed, he can completely remove all the poison of the pill mixed in the spiritual power and restore his spiritual power to its original state. With his eyes closed, Wei Hong was refining the medicinal power of the kindling pill with all his strength. As time went by, Wei Hong's face began to become more and more relaxed. Obviously, everything was developing in the direction he expected. It was very likely that the problem of Dan poison would be completely solved in a short time. Sure enough, more than 2 hours later, Wei Hong gently opened his eyes and exhaled lightly. Huh? After spitting out all the turbid air mixed with a trace of Dan poison, Wei Hong's face instantly showed joy, and then he couldn't help laughing and said, "Haha, it took a year to finally completely remove the Dan poison. Haha, I can finally continue to improve my cultivation." With his mind excited, Wei Hong couldn't help but stand up and move his hands and feet. At this time, he could clearly feel the incomparable transparency inside and outside of himself, just like a patient who had been bedridden for a long time. Now that the serious illness was gone, it was as if he had been reborn again, which was surprising. Haha, good, this is the real strength of the 6th level of key training. Feeling the spiritual power constantly circulating in his body at this time, Wei Hong smiled happily again. At this time, the spiritual power in his body was running very smoothly and briskly, without any obscure feeling, and whether it was using spells or practicing, it was mobilized very quickly, and his spell realm returned to the state where it could be cast instantly. He tried to cast a few spells casually, and all of them were cast instantly. How could Wei Hong not feel extremely happy with such a result? After a long time, he suppressed the joy in his heart, and then closed his eyes again, ready to try to practice. Without swallowing any pills to improve his cultivation, Wei Hong just practiced the exercises according to his usual state of practice. As his mind moved, King Muju started to operate quickly, and the spiritual power in his body began to move around according to the route of King Muju's exercises, and the speed of operation was much faster than when he was practicing Qi at the 5th level. When practicing the exercises, the spiritual energy around Wei Hong began to slowly gather towards him. Wei Hong continued to absorb the spiritual energy around him and integrate it into his own spiritual power, over and over again, so that his own spiritual power began to grow slowly. Wei Hong was very intoxicated by the feeling of being able to feel the improvement of his cultivation through cultivation. Haha, this is the feeling. I can finally cultivate again, and my cultivation has improved a lot. Wei Hong didn't expect that after not cultivating for a year, he would be surprised after the poison in the elixir was completely removed. Because his cultivation at this time was deeper than when he just broke through to the 6th level of key training, he didn't know whether it was the effect of the medicinal power of the kindling pill or the removal of the poison in the elixir. In short, his progress in the 6th level of key training had almost reached halfway. Try taking the pill again and see how it works. Wei Hong's heart moved, and he took out a key-enhancing pill and swallowed it directly. As soon as the key-enhancing pill entered his throat, it turned into a hot stream and rushed into his danshan. Wei Hong didn't dare to neglect it, and hurriedly began to operate the King Muju with all his strength, controlling the spiritual power to wrap the key-enhancing pill and began to refine the medicinal power. The rapidly operating spiritual power drove the spiritual energy absorbed from the surroundings, and at the same time continuously refined the medicinal power of the key-enhancing pill. With a two-pronged approach, Wei Hong's cultivation began to slowly increase. Wei Hong closed his eyes and devoted himself to the state of cultivation. He had not been able to truly cultivate for the past year. He had either been drawing talismans or refining pills, or refining the light spirit pill. Now that he could practice with all his strength, Wei Hong quickly immersed himself in it. Over and over again, he kept practicing the technique to refine the medicinal power. Now that the poison of the pill that polluted his spiritual power had been completely removed, the reason why he dared to take drugs and practice again was not only because he was able to refine the light spirit pill, but also because he was prepared to follow the advice given by the outer disciple of King Iron sect before, and control the frequency of swallowing pills every month, and take a light spirit pill every 1 or 2 months. In this way, he naturally did not have to worry about the problem of pill poison. As long as he was not affected by the poison of the pill, his cultivation speed would naturally continue to improve with the help of the pill. Wei Hong was immersed in cultivation and completely ignored the passage of time. The spiritual energy around him continued to gather under the blessing of the water mist array's spiritual gathering effect, providing him with a more comfortable and spiritually rich cultivation environment. Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes until the sky was about to dawn. His face was ruddy, his mouth was smiling, and his eyes were faintly shining. It was obvious that he had gained a lot from last night's practice. Haha, not bad, the effect of swallowing the pill is better than before. It seems that it won't be long before I can practice to the peak of the 6th level of key training. Feeling the changes and vitality of his spiritual power, Wei Hong was immediately very satisfied. He also felt that his efforts and contributions over the past year were extremely worthwhile. Chapter 475 Breakthrough Again. Talisman Drawing Workshop. Wei Hong stood behind a J table, holding a talisman brush, slightly bent over, and concentrating on drawing talismans. On this huge J table, there was not only the first-grade top-grade talisman skin he was using to draw talismans, but also spiritual ink and a thick stack of blank talisman skins on the left, and several already drawn talismans on the right. At this time, Wei Hong was extremely focused, and his face looked very relaxed. The tip of the brush in his right hand moved on the talisman skin like flowing clouds and water, without any pause, as if he had every stroke in mind. As the tip of the brush moved, the spiritual power in his body was continuously injected into the talisman skin. Gradually, the talisman skin under Wei Hong's brush began to emit a faint light. Wei Hong seemed to ignore it and continued to maintain his rhythm of drawing talismans. After a while, his movements slowed down, and then after the last stroke, he suddenly picked up the talisman brush and placed it on the pen pillow. At this time, as Wei Hong stopped writing, the talisman that was originally only emitting a faint light suddenly shone brightly, and then the spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to flow towards the talisman on the table, and continuously injected into the talisman, and the talisman also sucked a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth into the talisman like a whale sucking water. With the infusion of a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth, the mysterious talisman began to emit a pure and positive aura, and it was also mixed with a sharp feeling like a sword, as if anything would be completely shattered in front of this talisman. The talisman that Wei Hong drew was exactly the first-class top-grade Huxi talisman. After a while, the light of this Huxi talisman suddenly converged, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth also returned to calm, leaving only this Huxi talisman lying quietly on the table, looking seemingly inconspicuous. Wei Hong's face was delighted, and he reached out and picked up this Huxi talisman. Not bad, not bad, the success rate is getting higher and higher. After I break through to the 7th level of key training, I think the success rate will be at least 40%, so I can accumulate more evil-killing talismans. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel happy. The reason why he can draw the evil-killing talisman so skillfully and is full of hope for breaking through the 7th level of key training is that after removing all the poison, his cultivation has entered a stage of rapid growth again. After almost half a year of drug cultivation, Wei Hong has now reached the peak of the 6th level of key training. He is only one step away from breaking through to the 7th level of key training. That's why he has such a clear estimate of his success rate in drawing the evil-killing talisman. As long as he can break through to the 7th level of key training, his spiritual power and strength will skyrocket, and he will directly achieve a qualitative leap. At that time, it will be easier to draw this level of top-grade evil-killing talisman. You know, the 7th level of key training and the 6th level of key training are two completely different realms. The 6th level of key training belongs to the middle stage of key training, but once you break through to the 7th level of key training, you will be a cultivator in the late stage of key training, and your strength will be 2 or 3 times stronger than that of the 6th level of key training. Therefore, The 7th level of key training has become a small threshold for cultivators to break through to the late stage. Once you complete the breakthrough, your status will be different. Wei Hong certainly understands this, so he is full of confidence in his breakthrough. Now he can draw first-class top-grade evil-killing talisman at only the 6th level of key training. Once the steward Sukin knows about it, his status will surely be greatly improved, which will be more conducive to his accumulation of talismans. All this is because the crisis of the strange fog has not only not ended, but has become more and more serious. Wei Hong can draw a large number of evil-killing talismans, which will definitely become a hot commodity in Sukin's hands. Because when dealing with weirdness, the evil-killing talisman is far more effective than the Scorching Sun talisman, and its power is also more powerful and terrifying. If you have a large number of evil-killing talismans in hand, you may be able to directly curb the trend of the spread of the strange fog. In the final analysis, I still have to break through to the late stage of key training to feel at ease. These thoughts flashed through Wei Hong's mind, but they did not affect him at all. He knew very well that only by truly breaking through to the late stage of key training could he truly gain a foothold in the talisman workshop, and then he would no longer need to be cautious all the time. That night Wei Hong sat cross-legged on the bed, with a white jade bottle in front of him. He had been meditating quietly for more than an hour, and his physical and mental state had reached its best at this time. The 2 formations outside had all been opened, which would prevent Wei Hong from being disturbed unnecessarily. Because tonight was the time for him to break through to the late stage of key training, and he absolutely could not afford to miss it. After adjusting his physical and mental state, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. Then he gently opened the jade bottle, raised his head and swallowed 3 key boosting pills into his stomach at the same time. Come on, whether it will succeed or not depends on tonight. With a firm belief, Wei Hong closed his eyes again. The 3 key boosting pills melted in his mouth and instantly turned into 3 warm currents that entered his danshan. He did not dare to neglect it and hurriedly began to operate the King Muju with all his strength, carefully wrapping the key-enhancing pill with his spiritual power, and then continuously refining it. Because this was not just 1, but 3 key-enhancing pills. Wei Hong wanted to use the power of the pills to break through the late stage of key training in one fell swoop. After all, he was only 1 step away from breaking through, so the medicinal power of the 3 key-enhancing pills was the key to breaking through the level. The King Muju, which was fully operated, made Wei Hong's whole body emit a faint green light. The spiritual power whizzed through the meridians, constantly refining the medicinal power of the key-enhancing pill into spiritual power and integrating it into the danshan. In addition, with the blessing of the spiritual gathering effect of the water mist array, the concentration of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in Wei Hong's bedroom also increased a lot. While the spiritual power in his body was running, it also constantly absorbed the spiritual energy from the outside world, and then refined it into his own spiritual power, allowing his spiritual power to slowly grow. Over and over again, the King Muju ran faster and faster. The medicinal power of the 3 key-enhancing pills was so strong that Wei Hong's face flushed slightly, but he held it back and continued to refine the medicinal power. As the medicinal power continued to be refined, the aura emanating from Wei Hong slowly became stronger. After an unknown amount of time, the aura emanating from Wei Hong seemed to have reached a peak. In terms of aura alone, it was more than twice as strong as before. Suddenly, there seemed to be a slight click in his body. Then the aura emanating from him suddenly surged, like a hurricane sweeping across the entire bedroom. At the same time, Wei Hong seemed to have suddenly become the center of the storm, and the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth all rushed towards him crazily, and then was absorbed by him like a bottomless pit. Such performance is a sign of a successful breakthrough. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.